listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
What if there was a screaming crowd of children out front going, Jason! Jason Anderson! I love the zone!
I would wonder what I did in life to end up in hell.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a Tuesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe and Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. We will talk some NFL football. We'll talk some Major League Baseball. Trade deadline day coming up today. 5 o'clock Central Time is when the trade deadline happens and expires. And we'll see if the Royals are players, if they're traders, if they are involved in the market, how active they are, what the rumors might be, whispers and reports and things like that with different Royals names that are being discussed and talked about and reported on. One of those being Scott Barlow. We'll see if he ends up getting moved today. A couple of others that could be out there, whether that be Brady Singer, if the Royals are willing to trade him. Highly doubt the Royals are willing to trade Salvador Perez, but Edward Olivares could be on the move. Carlos Hernandez could be on the move. Ryan Yarborough could be on the move. There are a number of other players that could come up in trade discussions, and it is a quote-unquote seller's market with some of the price tags and even the asking price for a couple of these players and what took place over the weekend, where there's a couple of teams that were trying to decide if they were buyers or sellers, ended up being buyers, which makes it even more of a seller's market. So we will keep an eye on that, keep you up to date as to whatever is happening with those things, and talk about what the prospects are for the Royals in making some of these trades and what prospects they may get back. We'll also hear from J.J. Picollo, who talked last night after the Jose Cuas trade, in which it brought back Nelson Velazquez from the Chicago Cubs. We'll get into that and talk about him, right-handed outfielder for the Cubs, who is coming over to the Royals in the Jose Cuas trade. So we're getting into some of those things. We'll talk some Chiefs today. It is an off day for the Chiefs up there in St. Joe, but we will still talk some Chiefs. Adam Teicher from ESPN, our Chiefs insider, will join us coming up at 11 o'clock, and we'll get his thoughts on what has happened through training camp so far, the impact of the Nazeeh Johnson injury, the ACL tear for Nazeeh Johnson, the shoulder for Jody Fortson, the wide receivers, what he's seen from the offensive line. We haven't talked a whole lot about Donovan Smith or anything on this offensive line, even though there's been some conversation about it. We just haven't talked much about it.
Some people say he could be an X factor this season.
Well, it's about time there's an X factor out there again.
That's true, really. That's one thing that this run of Chiefs greatness has been missing.
Yes. Some would say that there are some, it seems Patrick Mahomes is like a Chiefsaholic. Like he is just addicted to the Chiefs. So if you get somebody out there who's a Chiefsaholic and you get an X factor again, it feels like everything
like
is
old
right.
times
Yep.
plus Super Bowls. I mean, that's the best of both worlds, truly.
What it is all about. We'll also get Adam's thoughts on Patrick Mahomes' comments that he had with Albert Breer in the Monday Morning Quarterback. A longer discussion around the Chiefs and around Patrick Mahomes Albert Breer had last Wednesday when he was in camp with the Chiefs, and he's making his camp tour. He decided to start with the Super Bowl champions. Good for him. But a lot of it is about Patrick Mahomes, the evolution of him and his career. There's a couple of other anecdotes that are in there that I thought were interesting, but part of that is also the commentary on his contract and a couple of names that he mentions while discussing his contract and what he wants to have for the team in the money and salary cap flexibility that would be there. We'll talk coming up at noon with Les Norman, Breaking the Norm. We will discuss the trade deadline, get his thoughts on this Royals team, what the final part of the season could mean, could bring, what there is to gain, what the Royals can do in this final stretch, and if it matters one way or another, whatever they do the rest of the way, other than individual performances, if they can just play a little bit better. It's weird because it's like the Royals, the wins and losses don't matter. It's about the individual performances. Whereas you look at the Padres, and they've got a lot of really good individual performances, yet they keep losing. So it's really weird. It's like Machado is on fire. Tatis and Juan Soto are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. They've got the bullpen with like a 3 ERA. They've got frontline starters that would be great for any team in a 5-game, a 7-game series that you can go bing, bing, bing right there with those 3 guys. This team is stacked with players and guys that are putting up great individual performances, yet they keep losing. The Royals, doesn't matter if they win or lose, you would love to have those great individual performances the rest of the way, because then you could see if there is a core for this Royals team moving forward that J.J. Picollo talking about adding to that core. Just wonder if that is a 1-player core or a 2-player core. How old do players have to be a part of the core, etc. So yes, we'll talk with Les Norman about all of those things coming up in the noon hour. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810 the text line. Last night's trade was interesting, Josh, because if you would have said The Royals traded Nicky Lopez for Nelson Velasquez
Yeah.
and Jose Cuas for Taylor Hearn.
Yeah.
I would have said, okay, makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
they've
all right.
kind of run the course with Jose Cuas. They've seen what he can do. They're bringing in another guy who's a bigger lefty and is a more of a power pitcher, not like the specific situational guy that Jose Cuas is, that, pitching from different arm angle, that maybe the Cubs need that for their playoff run, to bring in one guy to go up against a righty, that you've got the different arm angle there to make it a little tougher on the right-handed hitters. And the Royals just need overall bullpen to help guys that can pitch 1, 2, 3 innings and not just come in and do something like that. Okay, that would make a little bit of sense. All right, you got Nicky Lopez, a super utility guy, great clubhouse guy. If that guy is giving some other players some days off and he's playing second base or he's playing third base or he's playing shortstop today, or maybe they put him in left field there, he's batting ninth for a division-winning team and he's getting on base at like 325, 330, there's some real actual value to that guy. If you're getting on base in front of a lineup that's got some mashers at the top and the guy can score a lot of runs and do some of those things, yeah, I can see where an outfielder that's got some power but strikes out a lot, plays the corner outfield, but not a huge prospect, a guy that might be blocked by some other players. All right, that makes sense where you would get that guy back. It's odd that the Nicky Lopez trade results in Taylor Hearn and Jose Cuas results in Nelson Velasquez. Is that an indication, Josh, of the bullpen market, the relief pitcher market, as opposed to the utility 7 positions on the defensively player that can bat 8th or 9th and get on base at a pretty decent clip and a really good lineup?
We're always talking about market inefficiencies and these things that can be so frustrating when it doesn't feel quite right, when you undervalue running backs. But then you look at where baseball's at right now, and yeah, I mean, the skill set for, God bless Nicky Lopez. I've said this before. Again, something about what he is in baseball is quintessentially baseball to me, and which just makes me root for him. I love the super utility guy. Who doesn't love a super utility guy? But part of the reason you might love a super utility guy is because every team has had one who've had in that organization for some period of time. They get moved, and you go, well, I didn't get as much back for him as I thought our team would. And so to be able to watch that market move in terms of relief pitching, especially when you start seeing some of the higher value guys, I'm not going to say this is full-on redemption for the Nicky Lopez trade, but I love your way of looking at it there, because if it's just like, yeah, all right, we'll swap these bullpen arms. It's remember A.J. Jenkins and John Baldwin being swapped after both of them were first-round picks who flamed out. Like, I don't know, man, change of scenery? That feels like a change of scenery kind of trade, where then when you go bat for bat, again, that's not how the trade actually went down, but for the Royals, you say, all right, super utility guy that can go play a role on a really good team right now, and we're going to take a flyer because we like some traits from this dude. All right, cool. Full thumbs up from me. Happy to see it. But if that is a reflection of the bullpen market, I hope that not only is this only step 2 in terms of the Royals trading their bullpen members, because Roldis Chapman was a while ago, but they still did move him. I hope this is step 2 of 4. I hope that there are at least 2 more bullpen moves to come if this is, in fact, a reflection of the market.
I do wonder if, one of the issues I think the Royals have had is overvaluing their own players, and we've talked about that for years and years and years. They view their players in a much greater light than other teams do, and maybe it would be good to have people you trust in other organizations to say, hey, man, can you give an honest assessment of what you think of this guy, this guy, this guy, that you could really trust, to see what outsiders think of your players as opposed to what you think of your players. When you're close to the situation, you know them, you've been around them, you know the family, that changes, it skews. It's like, anytime you're going to pawn something or sell something, the antique roadshow, it's like, well, no, this has been in my family for 100 years. Yeah, it's worth $10.
Yep.
Well, I can't sell it. It's been in my, I don't care.
Keep it then.
Yes.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Your family significance does not increase the value to me. It means more to you, but people on the outside, that does not matter. And the Royals have had that issue for a while is, well, this guy means more to us because we like him. He's a great piece here, and his family and all of those things. And it's I think at times they've had a tougher time separating the business from the personal relationships. And that can be difficult when you're talking about players who are humans that are all often viewed as commodities that are just moved around and chips on a board. And just a game sort of like that, in which fans can view it that way.
Remembering players' humanity is a good thing.
Yeah,
we
it's not
should
terrible.
do that. The previous administration here seemed to have a really hard time doing both things simultaneously, which is a hard task, I have no doubt.
Absolutely. So I think the Royals have had a tougher time in realistically looking in the mirror and assessing their own players and their own value. I bring that up because if Jose Cuas brought back Nelson Velasquez, who is a guy that's got some power, strikes out a lot, the Royals feel maybe you can get this guy in. We'll hear from J.J. Picollo, get him in, tweak some things that, maybe you can tap into some of that power that's there, that's been there when he was in the lower levels of the minor leagues. This year at AAA, he OPS'd over 800, had 16 home runs in 74 games, another 15 doubles. So 31 home runs and doubles combined in 74 games. So almost an extra base hit every couple of games for that guy at AAA. He's in limited role this year in only 13 games. He was OPSing at 933, 13 games. But in his career, 90 games overall at the big league level, he's OPSing at 690. And hitting 210 and getting on base at 290. Striking out too much, et cetera, et cetera. But if Jose Cuas, somebody who's not viewed really around here as having that much value at the trade deadline, that it was like, oh my goodness, they got that for Jose Cuas? What are they going to get for Scott Barlow? That was my reaction.
Yep.
What can they get for Scott Barlow? I wonder if we go back to the symptoms that the Royals have had for a while in overvaluing their own players. If they feel like, well, we got this for Jose Cuas, then we'd better get this for Scott Barlow, or we can't trade him because that value. If Jose Cuas is Quinnen Williams and Scott Barlow is Chris Jones, we just got this money for Jose Cuas. We're not accepting anything except up here for Chris Jones / Scott Barlow. We're not going to take this down there when we got Jose Cuas. We'd rather just hold on to him. Like, is there a way in which they may have won the trade with Jose Cuas to the point that it keeps them from trading Scott Barlow because they don't feel the value may line up to where we got that for Jose Cuas? We can't accept less of this for Scott Barlow. It depends. J.J. Picollo, I didn't cut this clip but because it was a quick one, but J.J. Picollo was asked about, the options for Nicky Lopez with the Braves, and he said that was the option. Taylor Hearn.
Yeah.
That was the option, which is the Braves are the team that wanted Nicky Lopez. This is the player of the players we were interested in that they were willing to move. That was the option.
Am I nuts when
Yes.
yeah, fair, good point. If that doesn't make me feel any better whatsoever.
No,
because
it doesn't.
That part, you know what? You know who has some utility, pun not intended but accepted, on the Kansas City Royals? It would be Nicky Lopez for some time still, but you could just help. He can be there to fill a gap here or there, right? When maybe it's time to give one of these young dudes an off day, you can legitimately put Nicky Lopez at first base and he'll give you kind of a funny highlight at least once. This dude was, I don't know. I'm regressing now back into talking about that trade, and it's still frustrating me because you literally could have been in the market for him for cash a week ago, and that's a hard one for me to get over.
But it also, I wonder, and this sort of ties into the Scott Barlow.
And maybe Nicky Lopez was also like, please, just if you get any, and I'll tell you what a Dayton-y thing would that sound like? If you're like, look, Nicky said it, please give me a shot. The Braves are interested. Oh my God, JJ, please, please let me go to Atlanta, please. They're good.
That would be great. I would love it.
And maybe that's part of it. And if that's the case, hey, fine.
I know the traffic sucks, but please send me to Atlanta.
I'll figure it out.
It'd be awesome. I don't care. I'll just get some Ubers everywhere. But as it relates to Scott Barlow, so I think this is what's going to be fascinating about today is, the highs and lows of, okay, this team is interested in Scott Barlow. They're willing to give up this. Okay, this team is interested in Scott Barlow. They're willing to give up this. Okay, this team's got the AAA player. This team's got the single A player. What's the best value for us? But as he said, that was the option for Nicky Lopez, which tells me they were trading Nicky Lopez at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So if it's that same view of Scott Barlow, we're trading Scott Barlow, then I contradict does Jose Cuas skew their mind of what they want for Scott Barlow, as opposed to we're asking for A, B, and C. If D is all we get, we're moving on and taking D at this point because that's what we have to do. That quote, that was the option for Nicky Lopez, and they still traded him, even though it didn't sound like JJ thought all about the, no, it was a great value. No, that was the option, okay?
You would take the D if necessary?
I mean, if that's all you're getting.
That's just what I'm hearing you say.
Yes. If the D's all you can get, then you take the D.
Might as well take it.
Right. For Scott Barlow.
Sure.
Who last year would have been an A. Now, he's sort of a C.
You unpacked the parts of that, or we will know tomorrow. We will answer your question.
That's right.
Because if there is that feeling, and God forbid we get another presser, we get another Zoom, we get another whatever of JJ going, yeah, we just didn't find anything that we like for Scott, so we'll
still got team control.
Gonna vibe out with him a little while longer. Maybe his value will raise. Maybe his market will grow. I mean,
he needs 7 more saves to help out Jason in the ZOUs.
That would be
I feel
great.
like there's that value you got to weigh as well.
It has to be, and it's a good catch on the Nicky Lopez part of it. That hey, the result was made up for whatever reason. Their mind was made up on what it was going to be for Nicky Lopez at the deadline. He was going to move. If they are in that headspace, which would require a little bit of self-reflection and a little self-awareness that I am perpetually wondered if the Royals have or are ever going to find. If you can look internally and say, we love Scott Barlow, there's value, but for us and our future, moving him right now is the only chance that the not just him as a player, that his echo, that the droplet of water will affect our actual future when we can win again. Moving him now is the only way that's reasonably going to happen. And that I'm in a similar headspace with Carlos Hernandez, but maybe a little more optimistic that he could have the market this offseason. That I don't know, maybe they're going to get blinded by their own hope and then say, oh, but really he could be our closer this year after we deal Barlow. But I am encouraged by the Quas trade. I hope this is the second of several dominoes.
I agree. Nicky Lopez has 2 more years of team control.
I guess third domino, but I'm barely counting the Nicky Lopez trade. So.
Do we need a rules judgment on ZOUs about whether or not saves with another team?
Well, we talked about it. We talked about it.
Okay.
They do count. It saves throughout the season, even if they're traded. We had this discussion a couple of years ago. So yes.
Okay. Well,
But
what if they get sent to the minors on like a rehab assignment? Do those
do not count.
Those do not count.
They have to be major league saves.
And if it's a team that says, Scott Barlow, welcome to our 8th inning, then that right there, that's when the ZOUs
It's
fully claim their victim.
I took the over knowing full well that he could be traded at the trade deadline because I thought for sure he'd have 20 saves in the first part of the season. I mean, honestly, they've got 32 wins.
Barely had 20 wins.
He's got 13 of them.
That is crazy.
13
He's
saves.
that's got to be a percentage leader in baseball, right?
And he's blown a couple, so
That's
it's
true,
not
too.
like he's been dynamite. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. Let's hear from JJ Picollo, him talking about Jose Quas, talking about Nelson Velasquez, what they could be looking for in return in some trades. Todd Lebo asked him about the Nicky Lopez trade and why you grabbed a guy who you could have got for cash earlier, and whether or not JJ Picollo feels like they could acquire a core player, a player that could be a core player for this team moving forward at the trade deadline. Also, Mark Feinsand from MLB weighed in on what the weekend meant for teams and how the Padres and Cubs played that pushed them from maybe sellers to buyers, which we saw the Cubs turning into buyers and trading with the Royals. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get into all of that stuff. Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock. Les Norman at noon. Todd Lebo, 1 o'clock. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
I don't know if you've looked outside lately, maybe walked outside at any point. Here's what you're going to find. Leaves, branches, water all over the place. That's right. It's severe weather season here in the Midwest because it's a month. And so that means that your roof is going through it. I really do think that 12 months out of the year, I could probably say that. But it's been pretty evident over these last couple. And if you're not sure what's going on in the roof over your head, I got good news for you. One call does it all. Just ring up Shamrock Roofing and Construction, 913-850-6556 or shamrockroofer.com. No matter what you need or no matter who you are, if you're a homeowner needing an existing roof replaced, a property manager needing a roof replaced or repaired, a commercial property, a facilities manager tired of all the leaks, or an insurance agent needing help with the client, Shamrock Roofing has what it takes from the #1 team in the game. As all these things are falling from the sky, if it's hail, if it's tree branches, if it's anything else, For me, until I had Shamrock come over and help me look at that roof, I had no idea what was going on up there. We looked at it and realized, hey, this roof's still doing pretty well. We even talked about some ways to preserve the life of the roof. I tell you that because if they get up there and say, hey, good news, your roof's all right, they'll give you the timeline when they may need to check it out again and let you know where you're at right now. They're never going to have you try to get work done that you don't need. They're going to treat you like family. They treat their employees and customers like a part of their family-owned. It's a family-owned company, so they treat you all like a part of that family. It really comes through. I really appreciated them coming over and taking a look at my roof. You're going to appreciate them as well. That's Shamrock Roofing and Construction, shamrockroofer.com, 913-850-6556. One call does it all.
Men, summer is here. It's a time to vacation, get outside, and enjoy life with the one you love. But if you have a record...
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Briscoe, Drake, 913-912-4810. Let's hear from JJ Picollo. But one of the other things I want to talk about as well as we hear JJ Picollo from last night is the fascinating position the Cleveland Guardians are in trading Aaron Savali, who still has 2 more years of team control as a starting pitcher while they are battling with the Twins to win the division, and they are on the market to buy and looking for another starter, but yet they traded a starter who had a 3.7 ERA and 2 more years of team control for the number 37 prospect in all of baseball and Kyle Manzardo, a, power-hitting first baseman for the Guardians. Interesting moving things around. You want to talk about a team that's transactional? How about a team that's fighting for first place and trades one of their best, healthiest pitchers for a power-hitting first baseman and now is looking to add a starter, so they're reworking their team in different ways to help them this year and moving forward, even though Savali had 2 years of team control. That's transactional.
That's MLB The Show transactional. That's video game transactional.
Not trading Nicky Lopez and Jose Cuas and Scott Barlow.
Yeah.
That's transactional. So let's hear from J.J. Piccolo, who had a press conference last night. Let's hear him weigh in on the Jose Cuas trade for Nelson Velazquez. He just weighs in on that connection.
We obviously completed a deal a little while ago that sent Jose to the Cubs for Nelson Velazquez. In general, we had a need on the right-handed side from an outfield perspective. And with Nelson, you got a 24-year-old right-handed hitter. He's played all 3 outfield positions. We like his power potential. He's got a brief amount of time in the major leagues, but his minor league track record is pretty good. By our account, he hits the ball hard. He drives the ball. There's very little chase. There's some swing and miss that we think we need to address. But again, just trying to add depth and options for us from the right-handed side of the plate in the outfield. So we thought he was a good fit. And at the same time, I do want to say that Jose was a pleasure to have with us. You guys all know his story. Really an independent league guy, converted to pitch, really made everything of every opportunity he got within our organization. I'm proud of our pitching coaches for the way they helped him get better and ultimately get to the big leagues and be an effective major league pitcher. And we wish Jose and his family the best in Chicago.
Let's hear J.J. Piccolo. He talked about the market for Jose Cuas and over the weekend sort of picking up and then coming to an agreement with the Cubs.
We had inquiries about him throughout the week. Chicago was clearly the most interested from the get-go. And, not until probably about noon today were we able to land on a name that we were comfortable with. And then you just work through all the other steps you take aside what you have in front of you on the computer, whether it's scouting reports, data. You start making calls, try to make any connections, find out more about his background, his makeup, how he would fit in our clubhouse. So that took a couple hours. And once we felt comfortable, we agreed to the deal.
And is this a sign of the reliever market starting to move, you think?
Yeah, I think so. There's still a lot of interesting arms out there. So things are going to happen. Just don't know when. But, there's still going to be a lot of moves made between now and tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
It feels like maybe the reliever market is picked up, if that's what Jose Cuas brought back in return. J.J. Piccolo weighing in on what he's looking for in return in the trades. We read the quote that he had on Friday about major league ready players or near major league ready players in return. This is what he had to say for what the team is looking for in these trades.
We need help in a lot of areas. I mean, our farm system needs help. Our major league team needs help. So, again, it comes down to the team that has interest in whatever player they're asking about. Where is their depth and what are they willing to deal from? That's what makes this a challenging process to go through. We certainly have reached out to teams and pinpointed players that we like, but those players may not be available. So no matter how much we like them, they just may not trade them. So that's the challenging part of this, and that's why it's hard to, I'd like to think that we can get guys that can help our major league team a little bit sooner, but that's not going to always be the case. But it doesn't deter us from making a trade. I mean, if there's value in somebody that's an A-ball, we got to be open-minded to that as well. because that may lead to something else down the road. A year or two from now, that may lead us to something else. So we just have to, take what's offered and evaluate it and then go from there.
It is interesting when he says, there are different levels, whatever the value is with that particular team. There are names they like that the teams aren't willing to trade. So now you just got to deal with, both teams have to agree with it. Both teams, you need two to dance. And that is something to keep in mind when we're talking about these trades that, hey, they wanted this guy, this guy, this guy. They weren't willing to trade that guy. So is there something that makes sense, whether it's A-ball, AA, AAA? He says that, there are all different levels they can be looking at. But they're 2 for 2 in trading for guys that are at AAA or Major League Baseball. So maybe there are players of value at single A and AA, but so far, in the 2 trades they've made, they have been Major League or near Major League players. Both the players have pitched in the Major Leagues already.
And that's maybe true for Chapman also. If you want to make it 3 for 3, that really could be a matter of taste of what the quote unquote jewel of that trade was, like we're talking about some yesterday.
So they brought back 4 players. 3 of them have pitched in Major League Baseball before. The other one's 18 years old.
3 of the players altogether have played in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right.
Yeah. 3 of the 4 have all played at the Major League level. The other one is 18 years old.
Yep.
And obviously, for me, of the 4, the one I'm most excited about is the 18-year-old.
Right, and that clip from JJ is what he should be saying. That sounds a lot more reasonable than what we were talking about him saying yesterday. Now, to your point, we'd like to see him follow up on that some. But that clip at least made me feel a little lighter last night.
He was asked about the timing of the Nicky trade and Taylor Hearn's availability. This is with Todd Lebo's question in there about really Todd asking the question that a lot of people were asking yesterday.
When you traded Nicky away, for a lot of folks are asking, why didn't you guys just pay the cash and pick the player up before without having to go through the thing? Can you just take us through the machinations of how that worked?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that. I've been asked that question a couple times. First of all, our roster was at 40 at that time. So, when a player becomes available, you have to make a choice of who you're going to take off your roster to acquire that player. So we liked Hearn last week. We chose not to acquire him, or at least attempt to acquire him. And then a week later, the landscape changes. Where are we going with this? Where does the interest lie in Nicky Lopez? From our perspective, that may have been the best deal that we would get for Nicky Lopez. It doesn't change who the player is, but a week ago he represented something different than he did yesterday. So that's why we made the move yesterday.
I mean, sounds like, well, we didn't have a spot on the 40-man roster for him. That's why we didn't make the move. Really? If he was important enough for you to trade Nicky Lopez for, pretty sure there's somebody on the 40-man roster you could have moved if you liked Taylor Hearn that much that a week ago you wanted him. But who could you possibly move off your 40-man roster? Because this team is just stacked with players all over the 1 through 40. Who could you possibly move off the 40-man roster to make room for a guy that you liked but didn't want to drop somebody from the 40, but then you traded Nicky Lopez for that guy?
You could have DFA'd Nicky Lopez, I guess. Like that, is that not more or less what we're talking about here? What changed the landscape? The landscape changed. The landscape changed in this last week, he says. What was the landscape altering shift here? Was it you won 3 games in a row? You're like, all right, time to start the rebuild. Here we go. Good vibes only. That doesn't do it for me. Sorry.
I'm with you. So the Cleveland Guardians are a fascinating case study for what they're doing at the trade deadline. Because as I mentioned, they traded Aaron Savali, who is, 24 years old. He's got team control through 2026. He's got a 5.7 WAR. And he brought back the number 37 prospect in all of baseball, Kyle Manzardo. I bring that up because Mark Feinsand, when he was talking about the Rangers and who they may want and other teams, he asks, which controllable starters might be in play. Logan Gilbert for the Mariners, Mitch Keller for the Pirates, Dylan Cease for the White Sox, and Brady Singer of the Royals. have all drawn significant interest, but their price tags are understandably high. Free agent starting pitching can be quite costly, so the clubs with controllable rotation pieces will demand a major haul to part with any of these pitchers. Well, that's what the Guardians got back for Savali, was the number 37 prospect in all of baseball. Brady Singer has a 5.9 WAR. He's 2 years older, but he also has one extra year of team control. He's got team control through 2027. Savali's in 2026. Savali's been better in his career of a 3.77 career ERA, and Singer's at a 4.37 career ERA. Singer's better with the strikeouts and things like that than Savali, but Savali's been better this year. If he brought back the number 37 prospect in all of baseball, that should be comparable to Brady Singer, because you're not talking about different, like, oh, Brady Singer's got team control, but he sucks. Well, you know, he's pitched better as of late, and you saw last year he put it together for a season. You saw the glimpses of what made him a prospective number 1 overall pick in the draft after his time at Florida. Going into his last year at Florida, or junior year at Florida, it was, this is the guy that could be the number 1 pick in all of baseball. You saw some of that. You've seen some of that with Brady Singer. And that's where, are the Royals going to get a core player back? And J.J. Piccolo says probably not. It's because they're not willing to trade somebody like this, where the Cleveland Guardians are trying to make the playoffs.
Now, this season.
And they're trading that guy. And they're moving him for somebody who's the number 37 prospect in all of baseball, while they're trying to win right now. The Royals are years away. Years away. But is there any interest in trading Brady Singer, who you've got 3 more years with, to go get a top 50 prospect who then, you know, maybe has another year in the minors and then 6 years of control, where you could be looking at that player for the next 7 years on your team as opposed to Singer for the next 3? You've got to be talking and discussing Brady Singer with some of these teams. I mean, there was Anthony Castrovince at take my word for it and how you pronounce his name, I promise you, at MLB.com. He had some bold predictions for the trade deadline.
Hit me.
And his bold prediction was the Royals trade Brady Singer to the Reds for Jonathan India and prospects. And if Jonathan India is going to come back in a Brady Singer trade and some prospects, well, then you should already be packing the bags. Now, that's just somebody with a bold prediction that this is what the Reds will do.
You should be on a flight to India. Eventually, someone will be like, that's not what he
Not
said.
the same thing.
Come back.
Yeah, you need to actually, you're just going to Cincinnati.
Appreciate your enthusiasm.
It's not a big deal.
It's a much shorter trip.
I mean, Jonathan India was the Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago. He's got team control, plays second base, could play some other positions as well. He was playing shortstop. Then they brought up McClain and Ellie De La Cruz, so they moved him. India was like the heart and soul of the team that people were, Kirk Herbstreit was mad they were going to bring up Ellie De La Cruz because you don't mess with Jonathan India on the Cincinnati Reds. This is a guy they've been waiting for a while, since early Joey Votto.
And he's making a great point, and they should just trade Ellie De La Cruz to the Royals for Brady Singer instead.
Agreed. But
Let's take a break.
But if that's what somebody's like, hey, this is a bold prediction that they trade Brady Singer there. Well, that's who he's thinking would be in return.
And those guys have the same amount of control, just for the record.
Yes,
they both in arbitration through 26.
Yep. But it would also bring back prospects, too.
Yeah, great. Hell yeah.
And the Reds still have 5 top 100 prospects in their system. Still. Even though they've graduated a number of prospects to the big leagues. But they need pitching. How desperate are they for pitching? And that's pitching they can control for the next couple of years. Yeah. So they're not renting a player this year when they feel like, well, we're just starting. We are a young group. We have a window the next 3 or 4 years. Okay, we'll trade for Brady Singer because we've got him for 2 more years after this year.
When JJ talks,
3 years after this year.
When he talks about and kind of cleans up his own mess a little bit about like, hey, it's not a gray area. It's that different teams have different areas of strength. So for them, it's less value. For us, it might be more valuable. You get Brady Singer, we'll take your problematic Jonathan India because there's just you guys have too much talent in your infield. That right there is the type of big name, maybe a trade that hurts, but also that feels pretty good for both teams. Like that makes a ton of sense to me.
Can play
It'll
all
never
over
happen.
Can play all over the infield. Rookie of the year in 2021. Has a 744 OPS this year, but's getting on base at 340. In 100 games, he's got 14 home runs, 20 doubles, 52 RBIs, 12 stolen bases, and is viewed as sort of like that clubhouse leader type guy. He plays second base. He's also DH'd a few games, but, essentially a second baseman. Well, you've got Michael Massey there. Yes, I guess you do have Michael Massey, who is 130 points lower in OPS in his career than Jonathan India, who was Rookie of the Year. But, whatever, if that's what you want to go with. I also think with Bo Bichette going down for the Toronto Blue Jays, they're not replacing Bo Bichette if he's out for the year. The video didn't look great. But the video for Joe Burrow didn't look great either.
True, yeah.
So the video didn't look great for Bo Bichette. If he missed it, he hits a double. He's rounding first. They get the ball in. He stops abruptly and immediately pulls up, and then he's out. He doesn't even try to get back to either base. He just gets tagged out. He eventually hobbles over to the dugout, and he's out of the game. They're calling it knee discomfort, but there's also more testing going to happen, and they'd better figure out that testing quickly. Because if it's out for a while for Bo Bichette, they've got to figure out somebody to play shortstop who is leading Major League Baseball or leading the American League in batting average in hits.
The Blue Jays say they expect to have a full prognosis at 11 Central, so just 10 minutes away. That gives them 5 hours.
And I bring that up with Michael Garcia. What do you really believe Michael Garcia is? And are the Blue Jays desperate enough that they would say, you know what? We've got to make up for Bo Bichette this year. And even if we get Bo Bichette back, boy, Garcia's got team control for a while.
Or do they get into the Jonathan Indias?
Yeah, or do they get into that? Absolutely. But then they would have to trade some Major League ready pitching right now because that's what the Reds are looking for is somebody, and with team control.
Maybe they just DFA'd somebody. They could trade to Atlanta for Nicky Lopez.
The Jonah Heim injury in Texas. All-star catcher. He's out for 3 weeks or the season. That is a real wide margin.
Sure is.
When you get that prognosis 2 days before the trade deadline. For the Rangers who were going all in on Chapman and Scherzer and whoever else, that if you lose your all-star catcher for the year, he's got a wrist injury, he's out 2 to 3 weeks, or he may have to have surgery. They won't know for another couple of weeks. Is that worth overpaying for Salvi?
Yes.
Because if there's a team out there with a connection that would say, you know what, we will overpay for what this guy brings to the table. It's Chris Young, who threw to Salvi, and Dayton Moore, who would marry Salvi. A lot of us would marry Salvi.
A loving city.
The injuries are interesting, and if Jonah Heim was out for the year, I do wonder if there would be more of a, okay, we're let's do it. Even though Salvi's got a couple more years of team control and Jonah Heim ain't going anywhere, young guy, maybe they trade Salvi in the offseason or something like that.
Or they're the one that are able to actually sunset him somewhere else outside of behind the plate 140 times a year.
Absolutely. But they are going all in this year.
Yeah.
And if they lose their all-star catcher, who's a big part of that team, what are they willing to do to then make up for that? But they won't know for a couple of weeks. And there's no more waiver trade deadline. Which would be great because I'm pretty sure Salvi with his contract would pass through waivers.
You might.
So you could probably trade him and you would have a better idea of what Jonah Heim would be. But today's the deadline. There's no more of that. Deadline is at 5 o'clock today. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
You know, the Royals host in their next 2 home series? It'd be the Mets and the Cardinals. Not doing anything for you? Well, it's doing something at Tickets for Less, because Tickets for Less has a pair of championship specials to help you relive the championship memories. Use promo code 1985 to save on the Royals Cardinals tickets, plus receive a free all-inclusive VIP tailgate passes for each ticket purchased. That's right. Just enter code 1985, that's 1985, to get a discount and free tailgate passes. Get free food and drink plus game tickets for one great price. Or use promo code 2015, that's 2015, to get your discount on the Mets series at ticketsforless.com.
Certified Transmissions built its reputation on the job done right.
It means hard work. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Adam Teicher, Chiefs Insider, coming up at 11 o'clock, next segment for the hour. As the Chiefs are off today.
The Royals were off yesterday. The Chiefs are off today.
Yeah.
A weirdly quiet
That's
little
right.
18 hours or so.
Mm-hmm. That's right. 913-912-4810. 913-912-4810. Texas, the Royals swept a series and became buyers at the trade deadline. That's what's changed. Tex says, you can buy and sell? What? Texas, is the Lopez trade more of a thank you to Nicky for being a good soldier on so many bad teams than really getting any value in return? It could be that, you know, they probably, I mean, they could have viewed it as, look, this guy's been a part of our team this long, and here's where we see the future of this team. He is playing a lot of different positions. He doesn't have a specific position. It might be time just to go our separate ways. And if that was the case, if that's something they were thinking of doing anyway, then shopping him around and the only team or teams that might have been interested were giving you somebody along the line of a Taylor Hearn, then that's the deal you take. As we said,
when we hear JJ last night say that was the option. Well, the different options you may have had, that was the option. That was the guy. That was the option. We didn't have many options. That was the option. We were trading Nicky Lopez. Now, is that trading Nicky Lopez because it's an attaboy tip of the cap? Hey, you've been around a while. Go get yourself a ring. Feel good for you. Or it's business and you're not part of the next couple of years anyway, so it's just simply time to move on. Massey's playing second base. Garcia's over there at third. Bobby Witt's at shortstop. There's no spot for you because we've got Duffy that can play that role right now towards the end of the season. So, you know what? Best of luck to you.
It ends up feeling like just the most inconsequential trade that the Royals will have ever touched. And that is a bummer feeling because it's definitely not getting value because the best version of Nicky Lopez is worth more than what they got in return. It's worth more than Taylor Hearn. Not that he's the best version of Nicky Lopez at this moment, right? We saw that beautiful comet in the sky, and I was hoping that it would just fly forever, and no one actually thought it would. But however they get to this spot, man, it still feels like a procedural problem when you have to then turn around and say, no, we really like this Hearn guy. Just, we had 40 other guys we liked more a week ago when he was first available. It is a simultaneously pretty damning, I think, of how everyone involved viewed Taylor Hearn and apparently the market for Nicky Lopez.
Tex says, I completely disagree. If you believe in your players and keep believing in them, it doesn't matter what other people think. Part of their success is whether or not you believe in them or not. You talking Radiohead types. I prefer gas bags.
I like Radiohead types.
Okay.
Like the band?
Yeah. Would have given up on Hosmer, Moustakas, Will Myers, Lorenzo Cain, Escobar, Salvi, etc. in 2012, but the Royals stuck with them. And look what happened. Well, I don't know that you give up on them. I don't think anybody would have just said give up on them because they were early in their careers. Scott Barlow is someone that is not early in his career, and they're not competing right now, where the Royals were hoping that group would then become a team that could compete.
Yeah, it's a false equivalence.
That was part of the rebuild.
It's not these
and Salvi
players.
was good right out of the gate.
It's where the team is at. Like, again, we've all thought Scott Barlow's been good for a while and that the Royals should have still traded him a year or two ago because we all knew he was good at throwing a baseball in high-leverage situations.
Nobody was giving up on Bobby Witt. There was concern, but no giving up on Bobby Witt.
Have we said to trade Vinny Pasquantino while he's on the IL the rest of the year? No, of course not.
I think they should trade Vinny Pasquantino.
Wow. You Radiohead type.
Tex says, so what you're saying about the Royals is it doesn't matter if you win or lose, it's how you play the game? That's exactly right. Just work hard. That's what matters.
Hey, it's Lebo here. If you're looking for a new fitness routine, Base Camp Fitness in Overland Park is here to help. The Base Camp Fitness Studio experience will completely...
ACL on Saturday. What's the impact for this Chiefs team without Nazeeh Johnson this year?
Well, they're building some pretty good depth at corner. They can do a lot of different things with a lot of different guys. I mean, it certainly looked like 6 guys were going to make the team at corner before his injury. Now maybe only 5, but still, they're pretty comfortable in all those guys. So I feel like because they drafted 4 corners last year, and they drafted 1 this year, and they got Snead back. They one injury isn't going to crush the whole thing. But he was playing well, and he was going to play some and help the Chiefs some this year. So from that aspect, you never like to see it, but. They have the depth to overcome this. If there's any one position where they can maybe afford to lose a guy who's going to be playing a lot for them, that's probably it.
It sounded like on a couple of levels here. One of them being, Dave Toub was upset because he's like, that's my starting gunner. That's my guy. And he really came on last year and one of the better special teamers for this team.
And Spagnuolo, sounded like it was, a little more than disappointed in Nazi not being there from, his development in the offseason. And, at training camp, he was, whether it's injuries or guys sitting out or different things like that, but, he was getting some time with the ones there in practice. He was doing some things there where he was moving up to where it looked like there was more value for Nazi Johnson this year than in what it felt like last year was just sort of a name, a throw-in that maybe he can develop throughout the year. 7th rounder, we'll see. But Jalen Watson as a 7th rounder was the guy that's really making, some moves and turning some heads. And Nazi Johnson is a special teamer. It kind of felt like maybe early in camp there was at least some feel that Nazi Johnson could be a guy that can start to put his name in the mix of someone who could have a role in the secondary this year, not as a gunner.
Yeah, no, I do think he was going to play on defense, and I don't know how much, because the Chiefs have so much depth there, but he was playing well, and he was going to play some for the Chiefs. He would have been able to help them. So, from that standpoint, it is a loss. But, they do have Jalen Watson and Josh Williams and of course, Trent McDuffie and Snead, and also Nick Jones, who they drafted, who they seem to have some confidence in, that he maybe will accomplish more as a rookie, more than you might expect of a 7th-round pick. So there is some depth there, no doubt about it.
Anything to glean or take away or read into when Spagnuolo was talking about Nazi going down and some other guys that the only name he brought up was Echo Boydo?
Yeah, I mean, that was interesting that he brought that name up, but the Chiefs are feeling pretty good about their other guys too. I mean, I wouldn't take that as a sign that they're not happy with those other guys, but I do think that they do have some depth there, so they'll be okay.
Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN. Is there anything so far as we watched, there are a lot of padded practices, then, they get a day off today. So there's been over a week's worth of training camp practices. But anything that's starting to stand out or a theme developing in general in training camp for you, and then we can hone in on some other specific parts of it. But anything that you're watching and seeing with the pads and everything that is sticking out?
Yeah, I think at wide receiver, the Chiefs maybe are going to be better off, even without Tony, than I thought, and maybe a lot of Chiefs fans think. They've got some pretty good players there. I think it's clear that counting Kadarius Toney, that they should keep 7 wide receivers, because I can't see how all 7 of those guys aren't among their best 53. And maybe if Tony's not ready to start the season, do you stick him on IR and then you lose him for a few games? But you have all these other 6 guys who are playing well right now and able to help you out. So, I think there's this thing is going to be better at wide receiver as long as they stay healthy from this point than people think. I think Rice is going to do some good things, and Sky Moore is going to be a better player than he was last year. I like Justin Ross. I think he's done enough if he doesn't, fall apart from this point to make the team. So, they've got some good things going on at wide receiver, and I think they're going to be better than maybe a lot of people think, including myself. I was wondering about that, particularly once Tony went out.
Is that, if we were talking about training camp storylines developing before training camp started, if we're just looking at it, seeing how the Chiefs are constructed, what the questions are about this team moving forward, is that one of those to where you would pinpoint and go, you know what, maybe the best news for the Chiefs would be if these wide receivers look really good in camp and you start to have a better feel about them since there's so many questions around it? Is that one of them you would point to and say one of the best case scenarios would be wide receivers look really good in camp if we're going a couple, 3 weeks back?
Yeah, no doubt. I think that was one of the big questions I had about them going into camp, is where this was, and it particularly if you told me Kadarius Toney was never going to catch a pass, through the first 10 days or whatever it's been in training camp, then I really would have said, wow, what a positive development. So there's no doubt. I mean, that was one of the things that I wanted to see about the Chiefs in this camp, and it seems to be resolving itself in their favor so far. But let's see what happens with Tony, and let's see what happens with the rest of camp. It's not unusual for wide receivers to be among the stars of camp for the first couple weeks, and then once the pads come on and the preseason games start, things change. So we'll see. I mean, it's still a little bit early, but I feel like the Chiefs have a lot of good reason to feel good about that.
You've watched this team in camp and last year out there every day at practice and in training camp, and my memory is not serving me right now, so I'll ask you. Not Justin Ross, but Rashee Rice has looked pretty good in the videos and the reaction and some of the takeaways, and seeing those like yourself that are out there watching and seeing him. He's looked pretty good, and he's looked like he's acclimating himself pretty quickly. There's always the backdrop and the history of rookie wide receivers with Andy Reid. Take me back to last year. Was there the same conversation around Sky Moore that was like, hey, Sky's looking really good in practice, and they got Juju and they got to make up for Tyreek Hill, but you got Juju and MVS. Let's see what he's doing, and Mecole Hardman. What's he going to look like this year? And they got this Sky Moore. Was he having a camp last year that it feels like Rashee Rice is having this year, or is this a little different than what we saw a year ago for a rookie wide receiver?
Well, I think if you had told me that Sky Moore was going to only catch, 22 passes or something, if you had told me that this time last year, I would have been surprised. I would have said that's a little bit low. So I think his training camp expectations maybe went beyond what he produced during the season. But, you're seeing some things with Rice that I think are positive. There was a lot of talk about him when he got here that, he could only win jump balls. He couldn't get open, but he sure could catch a 50-50 ball, and he could sure, muscle cornerbacks and stuff like that. Well, that's not how he's catching a lot of his passes now. I mean, he's getting open. I mean, I'm skeptical that a guy can catch 96 passes in college when he's never open. I mean, I'm skeptical of that claim right there. So I'm not buying that. But that's not the Rashee Rice we're seeing right now. I mean, he's getting open. And sometimes he's playing against second-string cornerbacks, but sometimes he's not. And he's getting open, and so and the Chiefs can always scheme up ways to get him the ball. They love what he can do when he has the ball in his hand. So they can and will, I'm sure, scheme up some things, whether it's screens or pop passes or things of that nature to get him the ball where he can run in space. So. I feel like, if you're setting the over-under at 22 catches, is that what it was for Sky Moore last year? If that's where you're setting the over-under for Rice, I would take the over on that right now.
Yeah, I think 22 catches, 33 targets. So I would take the over on both of those for Rashee Rice. 33 targets, 22 catches.
I think that's a pretty good bet, particularly since their, wide receiver one is not around right now and probably won't be, I don't think, for when the season starts.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I go off of everybody else's view that's out there because I'm not out there watching, and so I can't see rep in and rep out as it goes. But those that are watching, hearing their commentary, and then I can't remember who it was that tweeted out the other day that said, Rashee Rice looks like, it was a national football reporter, said Rashee Rice looks like a better wide receiver right now than he did in college at training camp with the Chiefs. And, and maybe that's part of what the Chiefs saw. And here's what he's doing in camp, or here's what he's doing in college. Here's what we know or think he'll look like in the NFL. And this is what we're going to do to go get him and move up and draft Rashee Rice when there are other guys available that some of the draft nicks thought maybe was, were more valuable or better prospects than Rashee Rice, that maybe the Chiefs, saw something there to where now you have those same people that are going, well, the way he's moving right now and catching the ball looks better than he did in college.
Yeah, and the Chiefs have been pretty good about that over the years. That's where you make your money in scouting. I mean, anybody can look at a guy's college tape and say, boy, he's a really good college player, or he's not a college player, or he can do this well, or he can't do that well. You need to project him into the NFL, into your system, and say, okay, here's what we can do with this guy and make him a good player. Here's how we can coach him, that kind of stuff. And the Chiefs have done really well with that over the years. players for the most part in drafting guys. They don't take a square peg and try to fit them into a round hole, and so they've done that. And it looks like in the early going that's kind of what they're doing with Rashee Rice here. We'll see, but I think the early returns are pretty good with him.
Visiting with Adam Teicher, I'm trying to find what I put together for wide receivers in the draft, and I went through a bunch of different categories as what they did in college, and that turned out to be all pro. So I looked at all pro receivers and saw like different things in college that they put together. Here we go. All pro receivers, college stats. Let me open that one up here. And then, the different receivers this year. So there were a number of markers that I had that I looked at all pro receivers that were, receptions and yards and touchdowns and how many games they played, things like that, who are the players that matched all of these different categories. And there were, out of the top 30 wide receivers, there were 5 wide receivers in the draft that matched all 6 categories of the all-pro receivers that we're seeing in the NFL. The wide receivers were Jordan Addison of USC, Rashee Rice, Josh Downs, A.T. Perry at Wake Forest, and Tank Dell at Houston. Were the 5 receivers that hit the markers in all categories of the top 30 receiving prospects there, of receivers that become all-pro receivers of what they did in college. Doesn't mean that those guys are going to be all-pro receivers, because Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't meet some of those because of games played were minimal for him. And so there's certainly that to keep in mind. But Rashee Rice was one of them, and was one of the reasons why I had talked about Rashee Rice, and I liked Rashee Rice in the draft. And when the Chiefs took him, I might have been one of the few people that was on the air going, I love this pick. We'll see what happens. But, just from that standpoint, like, at least there was that in college from the production, because I think you got to have production in college to be able to produce in the NFL. I don't think you're going to see a guy that was just an also-ran in college and then goes to the NFL and all of a sudden he's amazing. That's just not what you're going to get. And I think the Chiefs need to find ways to hit on some of these receivers that they're taking in the second round and become bigger, better players that could grow into number 1 receivers.
Yeah, it's interesting, that list. The only guy who played for a Power 5 school, right, was Addison, right?
Yep.
Is that?
Yep. Or Josh Downs at North Carolina.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so and then didn't you have a Wake Forest guy on there as well?
A.T. Perry, that's right. So three of the 5 ended up being. But Wake doesn't feel like a Power 5 team, do they? I mean, it just doesn't. But Houston's now going to be a Power 5. But yeah, Tank Dell at Houston. Rashee Rice at SMU, and then Addison at USC, Josh Downs at North Carolina, and A.T. Perry at Wake Forest. Were the ones
well, that's interesting. And even before Addison went to USC, he was at Pitt, right? And so none of those guys were at what you'd call traditional football powers, even the ones playing Power 5 football. So that's an interesting list, and I'll be eager to follow those 5 guys and see how it turns out for all of them.
Yeah, not all. I mean, it doesn't always turn out to be that way. Like, but some of the other players in the past, CeeDee Lamb matched up with all the criteria. Jerry Jeudy matched up with all the criteria. Justin Jefferson matched up with all the criteria. Henry Ruggs did not. Henry Ruggs only matched up with like 2 of the 6, which is interesting. But then also you miss on some. Denzel Mims and Jalen Reagor also hit all of the every single one of the categories that were there. But also Gabe Davis as a 5th rounder at UCF. Gabe Davis was a guy that a few years ago I'm like, I kind of like this Gabe Davis guy. He's doing some things there in college that seem to be something that results in a pretty good receiver. But we'll see.
You should have told Steve Spagnuolo about him before the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago.
Yes, that would have been. Should have told the Chiefs defense, Spags, and everybody on the field that, hey, Gabe Davis down the middle. Look for him. Yeah, apparently he's pretty good. Adam Teicher's our guest, but you had mentioned that you think this is a team that's going to keep 7 wide receivers, that they're sort of at this point. No fullback. They do have that roster flexibility, but you think that goes to where they're sitting right now,
that this is a team that come 53-man roster cut down, that there's going to be 7 wide receivers on that initial 53?
Well, let's see what happens with Tony. It's not out of the realm of the possibility. They put him on IR to start, and he's got to miss a few games to begin. But that way they could be comfortable keeping those 7 guys. But I don't know. I think all those 7 guys, the other 6 deserve to make the team. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They've gone before to positions of real strength. They've kept more guys than they traditionally do. And 7 would be unusual, but unless they trade somebody or something like that, I think they've got that kind of depth where they can make that work.
Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN. Yeah, I think they did that last year with Elijah Lee. They waived him and then put somebody on IR and then brought him back like a couple days later. So, like, technically he wasn't part of the initial 53-man roster, but they waived him to bring him back along those lines. So they've done that before. I think they did that with Chad Henne and Matt Moore and a few years ago. So that was 2019 when they had to do that, put Chad Henne, and then they placed Chad Henne on IR and re-signed Jeff Allen, I think is what they did with that one. So, moving those things around to
Blake Bell shuffling last year. That was the Elijah Lee scooting around there.
Okay, so it was Blake Bell then went on the IR, and Elijah Lee was then picked up after that. So they waived Elijah Lee so that Blake Bell could make the team. So they've done that a couple times, and if that's the route they go, if they feel like, look, I mean, Kadarius, you're close to coming back, but you're probably going to be out until at least week 3. Well, then we'll just go ahead and put you on IR and go forward with these other 6 receivers, as opposed to we're going to keep 6 receivers, you're one of them, and you won't be there for the first couple of weeks or something like that. Like it's a real decision that they're going to have to make there, and a lot of it depends on the rehab for Kadarius Toney, how healthy he is, but also, Adam, how healthy they think he could be even returning from, this, that you don't want it to be Sammy Watkins where, okay, Sammy Watkins is active, and he plays 2 snaps, and it's like, oh, well, he's now out of the game because he re-aggravated something that, they thought was ready to go. That was one of the issues about Sammy Watkins, too, right? I mean, that he would play, but then halfway through the game, he'd be like, well, now he's not going to be able to return to the game. It's like, well, then what'd you push it for? If you didn't think you could play the whole game, you just wasted a roster spot. And the Chiefs can't really do that when they don't have a Tyreek Hill to make up for, that guy not being there.
Yeah, and given Tony's injury history, even ignoring for a minute the current injury, I mean, even if he's ready to go by opening day, I just feel like 7 is a good place for them to be.
I agree.
You're not reaching. You're keeping 7 good players. Chances are you're going to need the 7th guy at some point. So I'm in on that. I feel like 7 is a good place, at least at this point, for them to go.
And Najee Johnson might actually affect the wide receivers, because if he's the starting gunner for Dave Tobin, they need a gunner, and Justin Ross is doing that now in practice and, downing punts and, on punt coverage, that somebody's got to fill that role. Well, as you know, Adam, if you're going to be one of the last wide receivers on this team, you damn sure better play special teams.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean he'll be active on game day.
Right.
They might deactivate, that 6th and or 7th wide receivers, on game day. But still, yeah, if you're going to be up, you're going to have to help out on special teams, no doubt.
Adam Teicher from ESPN is our guest. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling, hanging out with Adam, and we'll talk to him about some other positions on this Chiefs team. The offensive line that we really haven't talked much about, which is probably a good thing, because you'd be talking a lot about it if Donovan Smith looked awful. So we'll talk to him about that. And then also the comments from Patrick Mahomes on the contract and a couple of names and things like that. Our coverage of training camp continues, presented by Barstool Sportsbook, Bud Light, Greengrass Cattle Company, and Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park. More Zone right after this.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Briscoe, and Drake.
How's it going over there?
It's fine.
Need more?
Just a little spillage. Okay. Just a little leakage. All good.
No more paper towels.
Good. Yes.
Okay, we're all good.
If you're watching on video, you probably saw that. As I was putting my headphones on, the coffee started to spill. Adam, I caught it, but just a little came out.
Got to have that 3-point hold on your coffee cup. I always tuck it high and tight here.
That's right.
Makes drinking hard.
I'm going to watch video of Tiki Barber moving forward, Adam, and I'm not going to fumble it anymore.
There you go.
You know what? Let's go. Let's start there. Deneric Prince has looked awesome in camp so far. Last year, the Chiefs kept, 4 running backs and a fullback. The 2 years prior to that, in 2020 and 2021, they kept 3 running backs and a fullback. Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire battling for a roster spot if Deneric Prince continues to look good?
I can't picture with all the question marks the Chiefs have going on at running back right now. I can't picture the Chiefs getting rid of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And if they do, they're wasting a lot of reps in practice right now that he's getting that can go to Prince or can go to somebody else because he's taking the first team stuff. And it doesn't cost anything for the Chiefs to use him out there to make him their RB1 right now, even if they're going to cut him. But, it's not going to cost him a game or anything like that by doing that. But those practice reps are important to Andy Reid, and he does not give them away to people who he doesn't feel like are going to end up making the roster. I mean, we saw that with Ronald Jones ended up making the team last year, but he was very, very deep on the bench, and he just wasn't getting much work in practice, and you could see that was coming. And you remember the year they had another running back whose name escapes me now. They ended up trading him.
That was Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde. Yeah.
Yes, Carlos Hyde. They ended. He was buried. He was the same thing, and they ended up getting rid of him. So, that's not what we're seeing with Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now. I mean, he's taking advantage of the injury to Pacheco to be running back 1 right now. So that tells me that he's not going to be in danger. And I just don't think. I don't see what role he's got when everybody's healthy. I really don't. But there's just too many question marks right now for the Chiefs at running back. I mean, Pacheco has still got that yellow jersey on, and he's still just a bit player at practice. Doesn't do a whole lot in team practice. And then McKinnon is 31 now, and he's got some wear and tear on him. So the Chiefs go easy on him. I think he'll have a role for sure when the season starts, but it's not going to be a full role. They're not going to play him a ton, I wouldn't think. And with Prince, I think definitely he's going to make the team, but you still don't know what you have there. I can't see him taking a huge role right off the bat. I think the Chiefs need to see more from him before they are ready to say he's this year's Isaiah Pacheco. And so you've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire there to sort of be maybe a little bit of an insurance policy. So, hey, it's always possible the Chiefs could do that. But with everything going on with them at running back right now, I don't think that's a smart move.
Yeah, I didn't think he was, but I still wanted to get your thoughts on it as you're up there watching just to see if there was something along those lines. And I do like you mentioned Isaiah Pacheco still in the yellow jersey. The 4 running backs on this team, McKinnon, Pacheco, Edwards-Helaire, and then Deneric Prince, I would guess that they're going to move forward with 4 because, Adam, I'll ask you, like, how many games would you expect Pacheco to play in a full season if he's the number 1 running back? Because I just question if he's available for 17 because his body and how physical he runs – and looking for contact, I mean, it's the NFL. It's tough to stay healthy as it is. I just don't think he's a guy that's going to be out there for, 15, 16, 17 games in a season. So even if he's your number 1 running back, you're going to need a few other guys because the other guys on the roster also have had some injury concerns. So I love Pacheco, and I'd love to see him stay healthy, but I feel like he's too physical of a player who looks for contact to be healthy for 17 games.
Yeah, and I think you need a plan B there with him, and for some of the reasons you talk about, I think you need a plan B. And, what's his status going to be when the regular season starts? I mean, is he going to be ready to go? Is he going to be ready for 20 carries or whatever if the Chiefs ask that of him against the Lions? So, this is not a year to be skimping on the depth chart of running back. They've needed their depth at running back every year, it seems like, for several years now. When was the last time they had a guy who you thought was going to be their featured back in camp? When was the last time that guy made it through a season, made it through a full season?
Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, when he was a rookie.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he was doing well that next year, and they had to cut him toward the end of the year. He probably would have made it through that season. So, but still, it's been about 5 years, 6 years since the Chiefs didn't need a lot of depth at running back. So, it makes no sense. Now, if you want to go out and get somebody, or somebody gets cut, you want to bring him in and be your extra guy, then that's fine. But I don't feel like the Chiefs should be claiming a roster spot there. I don't think that's a good move on their part.
How has the offensive line looked in the left side of the offensive line with Donovan Smith over there at left tackle, taking over for Orlando Brown?
Yeah, I think it's been fine over there. I think the offensive line, it's only been 3 padded practices, but still, I feel like they've held their own, and that part of the Chiefs lineup, I think, is going to be a strength. I was wondering, one of the things that I wanted to know was whether this trade, if you will, of Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley for Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor, whether that was going to be an upgrade for the Chiefs. And it's way too early to make that call, I think. But I think the early indications are yes, it is going to be a good trade for the Chiefs. So. We'll see if that continues or not. But, I think with the starting 5, the Chiefs are in pretty good shape. It's what comes after that I wonder about a little bit when it comes to the offensive line.
You mentioned Andy Reid not wanting to waste reps with players that might be running with the ones that maybe have no chance of making the team. How much stock do you put into, okay, this player's running with the ones or this player's running with the ones, and how much is there throughout camp? There does have to be a player that needs to run with the ones, because if he makes the team, he's going to have to then play with the starters at some point to really get an idea of, okay, what is this guy going to look like if he's out there in this rep or that rep? How much does that happen versus, no, this guy's running with the ones because they think he's definitely on the team?
Yeah, no, there's a little bit of mixing and matching, and you always know when a guy is a placeholder. I mean, last year the Chiefs had a guy, remember, named Broderick Johnson, who was their starting left tackle when Orlando Brown was out. He didn't sign his franchise deal, and so there was a guy named Broderick Johnson, who as soon as Orlando Brown showed up, Broderick Johnson was falling down the depth chart and didn't make the team. I mean, he wasn't around when the season started. So, but there has to be some of that. And, we're getting that a little bit right now in the Chris Jones situation. But, in terms of, guys like Najee Johnson, he was getting first-team reps. I mean, the Chiefs have plenty of alternatives there. It's not like they had to use it's not like they had to use him. I mean, he was he was earning that. Those were reps that I think the Chiefs intended to see, okay, what do we really have here? I mean, can this guy hold up if we need to play him? Can he do these things on a daily basis? So you get that as well. You can have a little bit of both for sure.
Last one for you. Adam Teicher's our guest from ESPN Chiefs Insider as the Chiefs with the day off today. Patrick Mahomes talking with Albert Breer last Wednesday. They were talking about the contract, or just simply modeling his game/career after Tom Brady in a lot of different ways. Part of that being Tom Brady taking less money, and all of those reports around sort of his contract throughout the years there in New England. And Mahomes says, quote, "I've looked at Tom's model and how he did it. That's it. You want to make money for yourself and for your family. You want to keep pushing the market forward for other quarterbacks. You don't want to be someone that they use against other players. But at the same time, I want these other guys to get paid. I want Chris Jones to be in training camp. I want Travis Kelce to always be making money. I want everybody on the team here. I've got a great offensive line. It's everything around me. It's all about having open conversations with Brett Veach, Coach Reed, Clark Hunt, just knowing where the happy medium is. that'll be that will be out there throughout my entire career. To me, it's not always about being the highest paid. It's about making enough money for me and my family, keep moving the game forward for everybody. He's mentioned that part before about, finding a spot to where I'm taken care of. It's a fair contract. I'm not, essentially screwing over other quarterbacks in the future. But this is the first time I've heard him where it's like, hey, I want to do this. I wanted to make some money, but I also want to take a little bit less at the same time. I want these other guys to get paid. I want Chris Jones to be in training camp. I want Travis Kelce to always be making money. I want everybody on the team here. That stood out to me. Am I reading too much into it? If there's a bit of frustration, if Patrick Mahomes saying like, hey, look at all these quarterbacks getting this money, I'm taking less.
No.
If I'm taking less, this guy should be in training camp. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't think you're reading too much into that. He's a smart guy. He understands what Chris Jones means to the Chiefs and their chances for winning another Super Bowl this year. But it all goes back to the way I feel about my feeling about him and his contract have not changed. That he'll be okay taking less and being the 8th or 9th or whatever highest paid quarterback, as long as he feels like the Chiefs are being smart and not wasting this excess that they otherwise would be spending on him, if that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely.
If he's convinced they're using that extra money wisely and making an honest effort to build a great team around him, then I think he'll be okay with that. So, but that was an interesting comment, specifically mentioning Chris Jones. But so we'll have to see where it heads. Maybe he'll march into Veach's office, demand the deal gets done, and the next day Chris Jones is there with this new contract. I don't know.
Well, I mean, he was connected to Chris Jones the last time when he signed it, that he signed the contract, and he said the first thing he did was call Chris Jones, said, left money on the table, get it done. And like a week later, they did. So interesting stuff. Adam Teicher from ESPN Chiefs Insider. Adam, enjoy the rest of the day off, and we will talk next week. Another week rolling and closer to the first preseason game taking place. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Jason. Talk to you next time.
Absolutely. There's Adam Teicher from ESPN. Great stuff from him. Chiefs Insider. Our Chiefs coverage continues as training camp continues going on, even with the off day, but it continues. Our coverage presented by Barstool Sportsbook at Hollywood Casino, Bud Light, Greengrass Cattle Company, and Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park. We will take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling more Zone right after this.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. We will talk with Les Norman coming up at noon, talk a little baseball with Les Norman. Thank you to Adam Teicher joining us here on Sports Radio 810 WHB as we talk about the Chiefs. Right now, the Pac-12 is holding a conference call about a media deal currently being presented to the Pac-12 presidents and ADs. And the expectation is that it would include 3 different types of deals presented at the Pac-12 meeting. Some have to do with incentives and a lower base, or a higher base and less incentives. None viewed as favorable. That is from Jason Scheer, who covers the Arizona Wildcats. And has been following this for a while with Arizona, and the number of months that he has talked about Arizona at least having the Big 12 on the back burner while waiting for the Pac-12. And essentially the role of Arizona, what they may be doing is, Colorado saying, hey, we want to see some numbers, and George Kliavkoff is like, well, we don't have any right now, and Colorado's like, deuces, we're out.
They got numbers, boy!
They got numbers, we're heading east. We were looking west, you didn't give us anything, we're looking east. Arizona is waiting for the numbers, which they are being presented right now. Later on this afternoon, there's a Board of Regents meeting that would control Arizona, Arizona State, and Northern Arizona. So Northern Arizona, the Big 12, I think a done deal, right?
Yeah, that seems like a great fit for all
Absolutely.
sports geographically. Just makes sense.
Yes. There are some reports that the Board of Regents would not stand in the way if only Arizona were offered membership to the Big 12, that it wouldn't be a no, you have to, Arizona and Arizona State have to be together. They would not block Arizona from going there. The expectation is that if they move to the Big 12, the preference is that Arizona and Arizona State would go.
Back to our 2 buckets. Vibes-wise, that'd be awesome. That'd be a blast.
Would love for that.
We'll inherit your guys' vicious rivalry.
That's right. Looking at some of the other things from Jason Scheer and what he has reported on this. Trying to find the what he said specifically about. Jed Fish, who was the head coach at Arizona, said shut down the idea that Arizona would be killing the Pac-12. He said it's Arizona's reacting to other schools making the decision that's in their best interest, which we will make the best decision that's in the best interest of Arizona. We are not killing the Pac-12. The Pac-12, we didn't start the fire, okay? It was always burning since the world's been through. We didn't put the hole in the ship. We're reacting to the fact that right now it's sinking.
There's a hole in the ship, yeah.
Can we save it? Yeah. Can we come together and save this? Or is there self-preservation and I have a child? Arizona is now Billy's, I have a child. He's skipping in front of every other, female and child. Women and children. I have a child. And he's getting on this particular life. But is that Arizona?
USC and UCLA dove out of the boat so hard they just went through the hole, and that's what started sinking it, I think.
USC and UCLA were the iceberg.
Yeah, right. That's right.
They're the ones that cratered the damn thing. But yeah, if none of the deals are favorable,
yeah,
then there is a real choice of the schools to say, do we deal with unfavorable but stay together, or do we do what's in the best interest of us?
Are we staying together for the kids is really what the Pac-12 is going to end up asking here, right? Like, that's really the question.
Yeah, right.
That list gets thinner and thinner, especially if you start playing that game where, all right, well, so what if Arizona, Arizona, the Big 12 makes a lot of sense. What if they do want to bring Arizona State? I really do think, again, if you're talking about conference realignment, one of the ways that you can get you can have both buckets be filled to the top, go ahead and bring in things that make business sense that are also long-standing interstate rivalries. That's great. I really do think the Big 12 would welcome them with open arms into the fray. But we know Oregon's like, hey, Big Ten, hey, Big Ten, you up? Hey, Big Ten. You guys got a big O there at the end, kind of your 10G kind of look. We got a big O. Anybody want Oregon? Who wants a duck? And then at that point, if that is the next step, this conference is a ghost within a matter of weeks, potentially. I mean, obviously, again, USC and UCLA start the fire, as you say. But it feels really fragile right now, and it is so wild to be talking about the Pac-12 in that way, considering where the Big 12 has been in very, 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 very recent memory.
The Board of Regents meeting later today that will immediately go into executive session, which is not open to the public. The Board of Regents meeting for public universities is open to media members and others that want to show up. The second they go into executive session, people have to leave, by law. But the expectation is that in the executive session will be the Board of Regents and a team of lawyers that are already there to discuss and go over the entire media rights payout and then discuss what the best option is moving forward, if it is conference realignment, if it's Big 12, or viability to stay both Arizona and Arizona State in the Pac-12. And if both want to leave, or if one wants to leave, and Arizona's preference to not be the only team that goes to the Big 12 after Colorado. Arizona wants others to follow. If they bring Arizona State, the Big 12 in theory would need another school. Utah's been one that has been pointed to, but Utah has come out recently and said, we ain't going anywhere. We're staying here. We believe in George Kliavkoff. We believe in the Pac-12. Media rights deal be damned. We're fine. And then the other day saying, our intentions speak for themselves. Or last week, the AD at Utah said our words and actions speak for themselves in talking about the Pac-12. Now, behind the scenes, they could be doing something completely different. But today seems like a pretty big day for which conferences are trading. Is Scott Barlow going to the Pac-12 or is he going to go to the Big 12? Trade deadline in baseball, but also Arizona and Arizona State, by the time the trade deadline gets done, could be starting a process of joining the Big 12.
It's interesting, again, just like the splintering here, the ability for the Big 12 to be the place with smelling the blood in the water and having a chance to just keep pulling at that thread. And, you can say, and this, I think, is just a good rule of thumb for anyone in college realignment conversations. Anything that is said in the present tense, you've got to make it really, really present tense. Because you can say, we are not interested in the Big 12. Next question. Hi, are you guys interested in the Big 12? Well, something changed in the last 5 seconds, so now maybe a little bit. No one's word here should mean anything to anyone. Especially if you say, hey, our words are there, but our actions, I think they speak for themselves. Yeah, they do. You're at college.
So just now seeing so it'll be after the trade deadline because the Board of Regents will meet at 3:30 Mountain Time.
Okay.
So 4:30 here they meet. And we'll see how long it takes. While the flurry of realignment with baseball players is going on in Major League Baseball in the trade deadline, there could be a late-night announcement or reports from the Board of Regents and other sources that the process has been started. Or the plan right now is to stay the course with the Pac-12. We'll see. Les Norman next.
I'm Dr. Andrew Palmisano, a fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon with Acentus Healthcare. Acentus now has orthopedic surgery.
Into 2. The Underground at Greenlight Independence is Missouri's first and largest marijuana farmers market. The Underground at Greenlight Dispensary's Independence location, 3721A South Nolan Road, Independence, Missouri, 64055. It's quiet. Too quiet. The Chiefs have an off day from training camp in St. Joe, and the Royals were off last night, but the MLB trade deadline arrives today at 5 o'clock Central. Last night, the Royals sent Jose Cuas to the Chicago Cubs for 24-year-old outfielder Nelson Velasquez. Velasquez played 90 Major League games with Chicago and had a .210 average and a .696 OPS with 9 homers and 32 RBI. We'll talk about the moves the Royals have made so far and what should be next for the team with Les Norman next in the zone. I'm Joshua Briscoe. This is SportsCenter.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, Drake. Hanging out with Les Norman here, breaking the norm, presented by TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Les, what's up, man? Good to see you.
My dude's back in the saddle.
Good to see you. It's been a while since I've been sitting in studio with
3
you.
weeks with you, isn't it, or 4?
I think a little bit longer because, well, I mean, Tahoe.
Yeah.
And then last week. But the week
Les
before
was
that,
out. Tahoe, the week before you were out. Yeah. Les and I
So-
got some great bonding time.
That's right. Yeah. I think 2019 was the last time you and I were in studio together.
Yeah.
Roughly. That's what it feels
One of
like.
those brilliant 90 lost seasons for the Royals, you know.
Last time we were together, Dayton Moore said they were close to competing.
Damn it.
So that was every year since 2017.
Yeah.
By the way, Brad Hand has been traded to the Atlanta Braves.
For
Brad
Barry
Hand. That'd be amazing if it was. So there you go. Brad Hand, the Rockies reliever, has
Raleigh Fingers.
That's pretty good.
Has been rocky at times. But we'll see what the return could be.
What about Jim Palmer?
Boy,
there you go. That's a good one.
Have you done the Immaculate Grid a whole bunch yet, Les?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like this would be something you would enjoy. I imagine other people try to sell you on it already. You get, the 9 boxes of, a team the 2 teams that a guy's played for, or a team and an accomplishment. I feel like you might have a good time with that. It's like Wordle for
Fun.
baseball dorks.
Yeah. And I play Wordle quite extensively.
I didn't know that.
I got
really?
I got it on my second. I got 2 yesterday.
You got 2.
I got 2.
I got a one and done about a month ago, and I've stepped away from the game for now. I'm trying to enjoy my championship.
You should retire.
I really should.
Did they trade for Tony Gonsolin?
That's not bad.
You got 2 in there. You got toe and knee.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I got 2. I got toe
And you
and
didn't,
knee.
and you didn't take the
knee.
Chiefs wide receiver, whose last name is literally Tony.
You've been talking about him all day. Dang it.
We're doing cross-sport trades now, so it'd be Brad Hand for Kadarius Toney. That's on the table.
That's right.
The medical
I
table,
like it.
unfortunately.
I like it. All right, so Les Norman is hanging out with us. Before we get into some Royals stuff, Les.
Yeah.
Last year, Little Man and I went and attended the camp, the Dash Foundation baseball camp.
Yes.
Which was pretty cool.
Yep.
He had a lot of fun out there doing that thing, and that was really awesome. They are taking it to another level this year. There was a camp last year, the first annual golf tournament, the Darryl Cronk Dash Foundation golf tournament, is coming up October 23rd.
Yes.
And you play a role with this. Corey Anderson plays a role with this. It's near and dear to his heart. So he was a big part of the camp last year. But this is coming up, the first annual golf tournament for the Dash Foundation, which I'm guessing first of what will be a long-running tradition. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. DC, Darryl Cronk, one of the best men I've ever known, one of the best coaches I've ever known. I've been coaching a long time. And it wasn't until the first time that I ever stepped on the field with my teens playing against his teens in a tournament out at Avila in the summer. And just the way he coached drew me into how he just loved kids and how he loved people. And it's just such a sad thing that, he died at such a young age. But his legacy lives on, man. And his partner, Kristen Spiller, she's the CEO and COO of the Dash Foundation, Dale Cronk Dash Foundation. So I love the fact that it's a golf tournament, but like you said, Jason, the first annual, to see how far they've come and changing lives. I've had the honor. Kristen has asked me to be a part of donating some time to do some baseball lessons for people. One of the things that Dale used to always say was there's a lot of organizations out there that are pricing a lot of these families out of private lessons. I mean, imagine. And I used to do lessons too, and it was kind of a premium price. But there are families out there and kids that they just want a chance, and they're talented, or they just want something to do instead of sitting at home in front of video games or something. And they love baseball, and they may only play rec ball or AA or something at best. And it was cool that DC used to, either for a minimum or just, and a lot of it was completely free, he used to donate his time and just give lessons to these kids. And so we're carrying that on. And this is really cool, man. It's, like you said, October 23rd, and boom, they're jumping right in playing at Loch Lloyd.
Not messing around.
Not messing around at all. It's October 23rd. It's 7:30 a.m. You arrive. Shotgun start at 9. You can go. Registration is at dc-foundation.com. And the general info you can find at dc-foundation.com as well. There's all these different sponsorship levels available. It's $250 per player. A foursome is $1,000. But look, even for the individual players, you're getting the green fees, the cart, $20 credit to the pro shop, and at Loch Lloyd, that's pretty good. You get a gift bag and food, and who doesn't like food?
I like food.
I love food. Yeah, it's great. So, yeah, it's a great thing, and Kristen and all the people that are getting involved, that are running the Dash Foundation. It has been unbelievably incredible, and it's just keeping the legacy alive of a great coach, but more importantly, a great godly man who just loved people, and he gave his life for people. Loved his family, had great kids, and I know his parents really well, and I love this foundation. So if you want to be a part of this, man, you're playing golf at Loch Lloyd. Are you kidding me right there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, it's dc-foundation.com is a place to go to register for general info.
That's DASH, not a dash.
Yes.
To be DCDASH Foundation.com.
And the registration, again, it's the dc-foundation.com/upcoming and then an actual dash events. So
you
it's
go
in there.
specifically to that.
Yes, but if you go to dc-foundation.com, you're going to find all that on there, and you can email dc-foundation at gmail, 816-716-4957 as well. Or and you don't have to play. You can just make a donation.
And you can sponsor. I mean, they're looking for sponsorships. I mean, if you're a company out there that wants to be a part of the Dash Foundation, if someone, as you mentioned, that loved baseball, loved people, loved the community, loved people in the community, and baseball is a difficult sport, and sometimes kids can get left behind if they aren't sort of keeping up with the Joneses, and to how difficult it is to stay with the skill if other kids are doing some of those things and going and getting lessons and things like that. That he viewed it of importance to continue to pass the game along, to donate that time.
Yeah.
When you've got a guy at his level that's coaching at Avila, and then saying, well, now I'm going to donate my time to give lessons. That's a lot of money that he could be charging that would cost somebody.
Right, and coaching his own youth teams that are feeder teams in high school that will come into Avila as well. So it's not like, and by the way, he was in a band, and he sang and played guitar, and he was obviously, his partner Kristen, they were just an incredible couple. And he loved his kids that were older. One of his boys played for him on one of his teams, was really talented. And he also, by the way, college coach. He would go recruit, and fly across the country and recruit and do all those things that he did. And I think it was, Stuart Scott always said, cool as the other side of the pillow, right? And Daryl Cronk was always cool as the other side of the pillow, man. He was just chilled out and I told the story one day. The umpire was really rushing us. We just got there. Hey, we're starting in 4 minutes. I'm like, are you kidding me? We got to even play catch. And he started getting on me, and Daryl was out there just a minute. I'm like, hey, this umpire's wanting us to start. And he introduced himself as the Avila coach, and he said, well, and he had a little bit of a drawl to him. And he's like, well, they ain't going to start while I'm working the mound, so I guess it's going to take me an extra 20 minutes. How long you need, Coach? I said, about 20 minutes would be great. He's like, well, it looks like I'll be tamping this mound for about the next 20 minutes. And at the time, I didn't even know we were playing against his team.
Oh, wow.
And that's just the kind of guy that he was. And, again, his legacy lives on. Kristen is doing an incredible job. And, look, it's got to be hard. It's the love of her life, and she lost him too soon. And she's out there championing the Dash Foundation every day and doing incredible things like this. And again, you can see they're all in. This isn't just like it's some scratch golf course somewhere else. I mean, this is a big deal. First annual Darryl Cronk Dash Foundation Golf Tournament at Loch Lloyd, Monday, October 23rd.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, you can register to play. You can donate. You can be a sponsor. They've got different levels of sponsors, the Grand Slam sponsor, a home run sponsor, a double play sponsor. You can sponsor lunch and gift bags and a lot of different things that you can be involved in it in some way, shape, or form if you want to do that coming up on October 23rd. But as you said, dc-foundation.com. And also, if you want to email, it's dc-foundation@gmail.com.
Yeah.
That is dash spelled out, D-A-S-H.
Right.
DC, D-A-S-H, foundation.com.
And it's not just one of those tournaments. I mean, we all love playing golf. I mean, I played, I'll just mention it real quick here in a minute, but I played in the Royals Charities Golf Tournament at the National yesterday.
Yeah, nice.
And that poor course had me playing on it, which hopefully they'll recover by the end of the day. But, but again, you're playing in this tournament. And understand, as you have these opportunities to sponsor, but what you're doing, it's not just you're sponsoring a one-time thing or something like that. I mean, we'd love for you to give over and over again, but there are families out there that are going to be benefiting for generations. You're giving opportunities to people and families that don't normally do it. And I've gotten to know some pretty cool people through that as well, and it's all because Darryl Cronk in his life, he was raised incredible by his dad and mom and family, and then he just gave back. It was who he was. He wasn't just a great coach, and he was a great athlete. He's a Hall of Famer, college Hall of Famer, played a little bit of professional baseball but before he started coaching. But he just gave back, and that's what you're doing. So if you feel like, oh, it's just another one of those tournaments, it's not. This is a legacy that you're allowing to continue to go on, and so many families and kids are benefiting from it. So, again, spell it out, DC-DASH foundation.com is the website. You'll find everything there.
Visiting with Les Norman here, Breaking the Norm. He's presented by truckmovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Do you enjoy trade deadline day? Does it look, there are a number of texts that came in when we were talking about this in the first hour that were just simply, it doesn't matter. It's immaterial. Like you're moving some pieces around, and none of them are actually going to make a difference on the big league team if this team's ever winning a division.
Yeah, so look, again, I mentioned that I played in the Royals Charities Golf Tournament. It's supposed to be an off day for the Royals, so you didn't see a lot of the like the active position players. But, Wickgren was out there, and Lyles was out there, Barlow was out there. You see a lot of these guys, even though they're pitchers and they're usually better golfers. And gosh, I think I might have even Alex Gordon was out there. I heard he hit a drive like over 330. That and in the fairway. I mean, for him, if you look at him, you're thinking that's great, right? So, anyway, you see Joe Carter and George Brett's out there. Rex Hudler was his usual low-key self on the microphone. He was not motivating anybody, and he was not happy to be there. And if you really believe me, then you don't know Rex Hudler, listen to games. But, it was really cool. And so I had an opportunity just to say hi to J.J. Piccolo. And we were talking just about the trades and all that. And he immediately just started talking about the Nicky Lopez trade and what it means. And it was a really cool day. I enjoy the trade deadline. It was a talk on the course all over the place. I do want to give a quick shout out to these four guys. Again, I golf in these. And to get Les Norman as your celebrity golfer
that'd be awesome.
Look, you say that,
life-changing. That's a dream.
There's some guys out there that I've played with in these golf tournaments over the years that they find out, okay, you're a celebrity. You still look athletic. You're still in shape. You can play. And then after 2 or 3 holes, they're like, who the heck do we need to see to make a trade on the course right now? That's the trade deadline they want.
Are you a switch hitter here? Can we?
Yeah, and I, and again, I wasn't great. I made a couple putts and a couple decent shots in the par 3. My driving was horrible, but Peter Maluk over at Creative Planning is a really generous guy, and they're like world beaters over there. But they hire some great people, and so I'm out there playing. We're talking baseball, we're talking a lot of stuff. But I got to give a shout out to these 4 guys at Creative Planning. Frank, Nick, Tom, and Brian were my team, and they were really good. I mean, they were studs. And Frank is like giving me like, hey, you stay in your front side and tempo, man. You got to have tempo because my tempo wasn't good. And these guys are really taking care of me, and they were so patient. And Brian's so encouraging. Like of the 848 shots I took yesterday, he's like, man, that was a really long putt you made. You really got us under par on that. I mean, they're so encouraging and awesome. So, I mean, these guys were amazing. So shout out to Frank, Nick, Tom, and Brian with Creative Planning. Just great young men. So encouraging, so patient, and probably very thankful that I had to leave with 3 holes remaining and I didn't play in the last 3. But just great dudes. But yeah, the whole thing was about trades and the deadline and seeing those guys out there. And so I love this time of year, not just because I get to play bad golf, but because we just get to talk about trades and whether it's good or bad or whatever. And, the Royals may have just bought Nicky Lopez about 2 or 3 more World Series rings because he wasn't going to get it here. He was going to age out before they were ready.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Is it hard to, when you're around somebody like Scott Barlow yesterday, to not talk about the trade? Because I bet everybody's coming up and being like, "Hey, Scott, I mean, what do you hear? How you feeling, man?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I bet that's." It's got to be almost.
You're asking me if it's tempting?
Yeah. It's got to be almost like you've got to try and make a concerted effort to not talk about that with Scott Barlow if he's out there yesterday.
Yeah, if they were to bring it up, like I had a good conversation. I had interviewed Josh Stallmont and his wife. We call her Doctor because and so she was, hey, how's it going and everything. And Josh is just that quiet guy. But that's not, unless they bring it up, that's not something I'm going to breach. My question for him was, hey, man, how you feeling? You feeling physically? How you doing? You okay? Because, again, this is an off day for these guys. And they're out there playing golf if they're able and just doing their thing. So it was easy to talk with JJ. And Rex and George a little bit because George isn't really shy about saying his opinion about anything, and so but it was all good. It was nothing negative. But I don't. Being a former player, I understand that if I got to be somewhere on an off day in the middle of August and I'm over 40 games under 500. There's a pretty good chance I want to talk about golf or my truck or my investments or something else. I don't want to talk about that. Yeah.
Anything.
So I don't breach that subject at all.
Yeah, anything but that. The 2 trades they have made over the weekend, obviously Aroldis Chapman was a trade they made a while ago that we've discussed, but the trades they have made, the Nicky Lopez one got a lot of reaction, certainly from us as well, that it seemed odd. They trade Nicky Lopez. They get a guy that they could have got for cash. A week ago, J.J. Piccolo said that, things changed. They were interested in him a week ago, but 40-man roster spots, availability, now trade deadline, Nicky Lopez.
Yeah.
This is the guy they bring in. And then Jose Cuas is traded to the Cubs, and it brings back Nelson Velasquez, which was really interesting because I didn't think they would get much for Jose Cuas.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they got him back at all, I thought was pretty encouraging, and maybe that's a precursor of what today could be with the reliever market. That if a guy that's got some light tower power and they got to work on the strikeouts a little bit. The chase rate isn't terrible, but the swing and miss rate certainly could be adjusted.
Well, then he fits right in.
Perfect.
I mean, yeah.
They need some power from the right side in the outfield, which I don't know. Does that mean Edward Olivares are they exchanging one guy that they took a chance on a few years ago with whoever the closer was that they had for 13 games in 2020? I can't remember his name now. I always want to say Kyle Farnsworth, but it was not Kyle Farnsworth. Doesn't matter. That they got for Edward Olivares.
That guy, yes.
Yes, that they got for Edward Olivares. This guy may be the same thing, but it's sort of starting the clock over with this guy to see if it works out. But Jose Cuas is somebody I didn't think they would get. Is that an indication of what you think the trade market can be for relievers? And what do you make of the Nicky Lopez for Taylor Hearn Jose Cuas for Nelson Velasquez, and the strategy behind those guys being already Major League players, Trevor Rosenthal, already being Major League players and not necessarily let's take a younger guy on a lottery ticket as opposed to this guy's got to be near Major League ready because odds are you're not going to get a great one.
These trades were interesting because if I'm Jose Cuas, I'm starting to feel like, now I'm going to get exposed because I'm on a team where, lately he's been over the middle of the plate a lot with these walking guys or he's getting hit. And the funky delivery from the side and all that, but again, these are Major League hitters, and you're going to get hit. And so he really needs to pick up his game a little bit, or the Cubs will bounce him. They got enough money; they can bounce him, and it's not like he's going to be out there with a bunch of other teams are going to want him. He wasn't necessarily great for the Royals. The Cubs get him, and if they can turn him into something, hey, that's great. Great for Jose Cuas.
Yeah.
I mean, every article you see is we got a guy for a FedEx driver. I mean, whatever. But I think this trade exposes. We got the great end of that deal on the Jose Cuas trade. Now with the Nicky Lopez trade, I feel like it's the opposite. I mean, a 28-year-old. In 5 big league seasons, mostly with Texas, he's 12-15 with a 5.26, and so that's a head scratcher that we didn't just do it. Could have got the guy for cash, which is when I walked in here today. What I was told I was traded for by Josh Briscoe. I tried.
Ultimately, the paperwork didn't get through. I didn't know how to use the fax machine, so I had no way to submit the trade.
Interestingly enough, that's what they told me when they took me off the roster after the '96 season. So I guess that still goes on. You must be you're colluding with the former Royals regime.
A lot of collusion going on.
There's a lot. So I feel like with Nicky Lopez, he should be to be a utility guy, not playing very much on one of the worst teams in baseball and then going to a team that's probably going to be in the World Series. Are you kidding me? I mean, I would definitely be putting the Royals front office on my Christmas card list if it's not already every single year, because now they just turned Nicky Lopez, and he doesn't hit like him, but they just could have possibly turned Nicky Lopez into Ben Zobrist. And that's a great thing. I mean, he doesn't hit the home runs and doesn't hit like him, but I mean, Ben Zobrist won 2 World Series in a row with 2 different teams, and so Nicky Lopez now is going to be viewed as that guy that can come in as a late inning replacement. He's got the big league, big game experience, the World Series experience, the playoff experience, and so the Royals just did Nicky Lopez a favor by extending his career by probably 5 to 7 years and just made him a lot more money.
The Padres and Pirates have just made a trade. Rich Hill and Ji-Man Choi going from Pittsburgh to San Diego. San Diego sending back some prospects, and the main prospect from that is Jackson Wolf, who is the Padres' number 16 prospect in their system. But I bring that up because Ji-Man Choi is batting .200 this year, and Rich Hill has a 4.8 ERA and a 1.5 WHIP, and is 43 years old.
43.
Amazing.
And
one of the greatest.
His 13th team.
Yeah, 13th team.
One of the greatest nicknames in baseball history.
And still grumpy as ever, too, man.
And he's gone to the mound every 5 days.
Yep.
So that's the value that the Padres are getting, is a guy that's going to go every 5 days to the mound and going to give you almost a 5 ERA and a 1.5 WHIP. Hi, Jordan Lyles.
Yeah, he's
the
clogger, man. He's the hair in the drain that won't unclog.
Every 5 days, he's going to take the mound. Now, hey, if you can get the number 16 prospect from somebody else's team for Jordan Lyles, hey, that's great. Now, Rich Hill's a free agent at the end of this year, so he doesn't have team control after that. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Ryan Yarbrough, though, also?
I mean, I would hope that Ryan Yarbrough would bring back more.
Yeah.
No, sure.
Because since he returned...
You've gotten greedy really fast today.
No, but here's why. Because Rich Hill, again, 5 ERA and a 1.5 WHIP. Yarbrough, since he's come back from taking the baseball to the face, has 6 starts with a 2 ERA. 15 strikeouts and 2 walks.
You know how mentally strong you have to be? Not just to put numbers up like that, but you're not putting numbers up like that if you're thinking about what if a line drive comes back and hits me in the face again.
No, it's unreal. It really is.
It's unbelievable, the resolve of that dude.
Yeah, since he came back against Cleveland, 6 innings, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 5 Ks. Against Detroit, 5 2/3, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 Ks. Against Cleveland, 6 innings, 1 earned run. against Minnesota, 7 innings, 1 earned run, no walks, 5 Ks. That's what Yarborough's done since he's returned from the disabled list. And
it's amazing.
And so, if some of the pitchers are bringing back what they're bringing back, Yarborough's name, 1, should be out there, 2, should actually have some value with the way he's pitching right now. And the fact that, he is a free agent, so teams don't have to make an investment for the next couple of years. This is a guy to where the Royals signed him for $3 million. He's pitching well enough that you say there's some value there. You move him, see what you get back.
Yeah. Here's the frustrating part about looking at that Padres trade, because you see prospects coming back in, but then you look at the core. I mean, you're talking about Tatis and Soto and Machado and Cronenworth, and I mean, you've got these guys that can already play. I mean, the Padres are playing well below what they should be playing right now, well below with that superstar team. But you can look at that, and it's not just unwarranted optimism to say, yeah, they're going to be back into it pretty soon. They just got to make a move or two. The Royals are in that situation where, and I will not be surprised if Barlow is gone by the end of the day. I'm saying.
I would expect it.
Why do you need a closer when you're 40 games under 500?
I would expect it to happen.
And again, we need prospects, obviously, because we're looking in. And Josh, you said this earlier off the air that when you're starting to tap into consistently looking at the A-ball and AA clubs for your future instead of looking at the present situation of the high AAA stars or what's in the big leagues, that's a problem. So if you look at, the Royals obviously are not the Padres. If you look at the Royals, who are your star players that you're trying to build in trades, that you're trying to build get prospects in and make this team better? Even in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, again, put them up against Soto, Machado, Tatis, all these guys. Who do the Royals have? I mean,
Bobby.
It's Bobby. It's Bobby.
Yeah.
Salvi, we love you. He's too old now.
Yeah.
He's too old, and the Royals are paying him a lot of money, and that's it is what it is. So
he's even playing a little first base.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part. And so in these trade deadlines, I have to take the front 50% of my brain and say, shut it down. There's nobody here that we're going to be building into except for Bobby, and just focus on the prospect stuff and just keep looking at the future. So it is exciting if you can avoid the frustrating part of it. And yeah, it's tough to watch, but fun to watch depending on what side of your brain you're working at with.
And not all farm systems are created equal, but Jackson Wolf, the number 16 prospect in the Padres, he's a 24-year-old left-handed pitcher who's still at AA. So
yeah.
So that's what they got back for, a 5 ERA and a 200 hitter for the Pirates. They got a 24-year-old left-hander. He's 6'7", but he's 24-year-old still at AA. So it's not like a guy that's...
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're taking a flyer if you're the Pirates. Let's see if we can tap into something. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue to tap into that brain of Les Norman, talking some Royals baseball. It is Breaking the Norm. Les Norman, he is presented each and every time he's on the show with us by TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hanging out with Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Can we hear a clip from J.J. Picollo? We haven't played this one yet. He was asked about a core player, if there is a trade or something along the line, this trade deadline, where they could acquire somebody that could be a part, as JJ had talked about, the core players for this team, somebody that could be a core player.
I think it's going to be difficult. When you look at what may have available, we're looking at a reliever market, and a reliever market may not return a large player or somebody that's going to greatly impact our current core. So again, if we can improve marginally along the way and help with pieces, that's probably what we're going to get done through this deadline.
Look, winning trades marginally over and over again eventually become better. Earlier, we played a clip of J.J. Picollo saying, it sort of depends on the strength of the farm system of the other team, that if there's somebody that's lower in the minor leagues, and that's what makes sense, and that's what we'll do. And he had said, because it may not help us right now, but in a couple of years might help us then, which is what I pointed out yesterday. I'm like, if you're saying you need major league ready guys to help you, well, if you take a 18-year-old in A-ball, in 3 years from now, you're competing, and that 18-year-old in A-ball is 21 years old, in AAA, and you can move him to get a better piece back. That did help the major league team when you were ready to compete. So all of those things really go together. But core player, and his answer being, we're dealing in the reliever market, essentially telling you who they're looking to trade.
Yeah.
And that's it. And, hey, we're not going to get a core player back in a reliever market. But my point, Les, would be, why are you only in the reliever market? Shouldn't you be in the everybody on your team is available market?
The Royals' issues are not only relievers, or they're not one-dimensional problems that we're talking about here. And if you try to go, okay, this year's the reliever market, and then next year it's the infielder market, and then the following year it's the outfielder market, and the game's going to pass you by. And the greatest seasons and World Series championships of the Royals are going to be long gone. It's going to be long in the rearview mirror with nothing in sight. And so it has to be in every single area. I was going to ask you guys this earlier. Who has the third most walks in the Royals on the Royals team, in the Royals offense? Who has the third most walks for hitters? Third most.
Vinny Pasquantino.
It's Vinny Pasquantino. 25. And how long has he not played?
A while.
A long time.
A while.
It's been roughly a while.
So, and you talk about, we got a good a bopper hitter, but there's a swing and miss issue. So for me right now, I mean, there's a lot of relievers that can do good things or do average things or even below average things. But right now, we need to start making some more contact. So a reliever market is not a priority for me right now. It's what I wouldn't say a priority, the priority. It's not the priority.
But it's like
June 9th, the last appearance for Vinny Pasquantino.
So if that's all they're
almost
looking,
2 months.
If that's all they're looking to trade, though, if they're only looking to trade relievers, so a Scott Barlow, a Carlos Hernandez, and now Jose Cuas that they traded, to me, it's not looking at the big picture of what your team is and how close you are. It's discouraging when he had talked about major league ready players or near major league players, because this team isn't near ready to compete.
Right.
And it's interesting that you say, well, we're looking to acquire players that are near the major leagues, yet in the draft we took a high school catcher. When there was a college catcher that was available, like, do you feel like you're that close with the core that you're looking for major league players, as opposed to we need guys that might be an A-ball or double-A that we can develop and come in and have a chance of being bigger, better players, while we had a college catcher that was viewed as someone who's going to be plug and place as a long time for an organization, and you took a high school kid.
Yeah, if Kyle Teal from Virginia, if he's in the big leagues in 2 years, 3 years, I'm going to be ticked. I'm not going to be happy, because that was the pick if you went after a catcher.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
So it doesn't, what happens doesn't match what they're saying.
Right. And so to me, like, it shouldn't be only they're looking to move relievers. The Cleveland Guardians, we've heard transactional a lot, right? The Royals are going to be more transactional,
Yes.
transactional. Cleveland's more transactional. The Rays are more transactional. Cleveland traded Aaron Savali, who is 24 years old and has a 3.7 ERA, has almost 6 points of WAR in his career. and has 2 more years of team control after this year. They are trying to win the division, and they traded him for the number 37 overall prospect in baseball to the Rays. They are now on the market looking to be buyers for a starting pitcher because they're transactional. They're looking at all different ways we can become better as a team. It makes sense to trade this guy for that guy right now because it makes us better organization. And then we got to supplement that by moving this guy over there to then make sure we've got guys that are in our rotation so we can still compete with the Twins because we're in the Central. We're not competing with the Rays and the Blue Jays and those other teams and the Rangers and the Astros. We're trying to win our division, which becomes a little bit easier so we can do some of these things and be transactional. Yet the Royals are dealing in the reliever market and not thinking about moving Brady Singer for a top 50 prospect in all of baseball.
And that should happen. When you say that, Jason, you talk about teams that are transactional. Teams that are transactional, trading people, no matter whether they're good big leaguers right now, because they're trying to get something in return right now, it's part of the business. It's a daily thing. It's a daily mindset where it seems like the Royals continue to try to – it's always lightning in a bottle. We'll trade 4 people in some trades that don't seem to make sense because maybe one of them will hit, and then they don't, and then we're back in the same situation. So – That is really, really tough to stomach.
Yeah, that's okay. So another trade that comes in with the Blue Jays, and that they got Paul DeJong. That's how you pronounce the name, right?
It's DeJong, isn't it?
Is it DeJong? Is it DeJong?
DeJong, yeah.
DeJong, shortstop for the Cardinals.
That's your Bo Bichette.
So that means that injury must be pretty serious.
Yeah. I'm really interested in seeing the return on that. Now, that's a little bit different when he's a free agent at the end of this year.
Yeah.
I had mentioned that if the Bo Bichette injury was serious enough that it may be out for the season, one, you're not replacing that guy who's leading the American League in batting average and hits.
Yeah.
You're not replacing him at shortstop. But if they were looking to then add and they feel like this is a longer-term deal this year, maybe Maikel Garcia. Maybe you give the Blue Jays a phone call. Hey, we worked last year with Whit Merrifield.
That would have been a good trade.
Let's work on a Maikel Garcia trade. Because as good as he's been for the Royals this year, and we're like, wow, Maikel Garcia has been fun to watch, he's got a 95 OPS plus, which is 95% of what would be, essentially average OPS, meaning he's 5% worse than what the average OPS would be. And that's a 700 OPS overall for him. And he's been good. And he's been one of the guys you're like, I really like this Maikel Garcia guy. 73 games into his career, 23 years old, playing an awesome third base, right?
Yeah.
But what do you have? How good is he going to be? Is he going to be Nicky Lopez in 2 years?
And he's not a third baseman. That would have been a great trade for the Royals right there.
Yeah.
You could have got some good prospects out of that because you're trying to protect your stud shortstop.
Right. Is he going to be Nicky Lopez in a couple of years that he's a utility man, that gets on base at 320, 330. And that's a guy that there's a lot of hope in, like Maikel Garcia. He's getting on base at 320.
So is the reason the Royals don't trade him is because are they thinking that he is – no, he's going to stay here. We're not going to trade him. And again, there's still a few hours left. We know it could still happen. But those are the kind of opportunities that the Royals need to be ready to seize. And as soon as he got hurt in the game last night, you figure J.J. Picollo is on the phone with the Blue Jays right now.
My first thought was Garcia. My first thought was Maikel Garcia.
That would have been outstanding because when you have Bo Bichette involved and he's your future, you could have hammered a couple of prospects out on that. I mean, you could have really got a good return on a trade like that.
And there's a lot of team control, obviously. So you wouldn't, if you're the Blue Jays, you wouldn't be trading prospects for a rent-a-player.
Yep.
You would be trading prospects for a guy that, at worst, you've got a really strong defensive player that has potential of being a really consistent hitter at the I mean, he's batting 270. He's getting on base at 320, but he's batting 270, and I love his swing plane. I love that it's just so consistent through the zone, and it's why he hits so many line drives. And if he gets a little more lift and a little more backspin, he can hit 20 home runs in a season with that defense. Those are the possibilities that are there.
Yeah. And maybe understand that DeJong...
Those are possibilities, though.
Yeah, the Blue Jays may have wanted DeJong maybe because of the little bit more home run potential that he has, and that's fine. But again,
and maybe they didn't want a long-term player and give up prospects for a long-term player if it's only this year they got to worry about Bichette.
And Garcia's playing out of position, by the way, at third base. He's not a third baseman. He's playing a good third base because he's a good athlete, but he's a shortstop.
Yeah, and he can play everywhere. He can play third base, shortstop, second base.
Right,
he can play any of those.
I could see him being an everyday good big league shortstop for 10, 11, 12 years.
See, those are the moves that I don't think the Royals are in the business of making.
Yeah.
I don't think the Royals like trading players that have team control for multiple years unless it's a reliever. They just are so averse to that, which is why I don't see anything happening with Brady Singer. Even though, the freaking Guardians traded a guy who's got less, points of WAR in his career. And they're trying to compete this year. And also, like when things out, Jonah Heim for the Rangers. I mean,
I heard you talking about him earlier.
I mean, look, if there's an organization that knows the value of Salvi, it would be the Rangers. With Chris Young, who threw to Salvi, and Dayton Moore, who's there as an advisor, who loves Salvi as much as anybody.
So, hey, Royals fans, your heart may be broken by the end of the day. I mean, it could happen.
But I doubt it, though,
I
man.
doubt it, but
not exactly
I doubt
like
it, but it could.
Breaking news here, but a new report here from Mark Feinsand of MLB saying the Royals, who have this is like a minute ago, the Royals who have already traded Aroldis Chapman, Jose Cuas, he wrote Ross. I'm going to go ahead and assume there wasn't another pitcher I just learned
Kansas
about.
Kansas City, he's all about Ross. In Kansas City, it's Justin Ross.
Jose Ross.
Give me all the Rosses.
And Nicky Lopez, he says the Royals are talking to teams about Scott Barlow, Ryan Yarbrough, Taylor Clark, and Edward Olivares. So those are the names that Mark Feinsand tweets out.
So players that I guess Taylor Clark would have team control, Barlow, but nobody there that would be
not
of value.
Notable names not included: Salvador Perez, Brady Singer, and et al.
So most people, when they go to a golf tournament, they bring their golf clubs. I did notice that Barlow brought like 7 suitcases yesterday. So maybe there is something to that I should have put together. He really didn't. So no, he didn't do that.
Also, no Carlos Hernandez in that tweet.
Interesting. Yeah, he showed up with his go bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hernandez and Barlow that's legitimate, man. You should be able to get a good return on them if it's a smart trade. But again, you got to wait and see because who's available, and are the Royals going to get something that they need, or are we going to stay in the left-handed reliever market?
And we'll see what the market is for Barlow. Because the old school look of Barlow and just looking at the numbers wouldn't be great with the ZRA ballooning to 5 and his whip that's there. The advanced analytics for Scott Barlow, if you're dealing with a team that would be looking at such things when he's rated in the top 80% of baseball in the exit velocity, which is good. The higher, the better. The higher the better ranking, which means the lower the exit velocity. That's weird, I know. The barrel percentage, line drive percentage, hard hit percentage, all of those things are down. They're what they've been in his career. And his fielding in independent pitching is like a 3.4. So the advanced analytics would say, yep, Barlow's walks have been an issue, but the other parts of his game, the spin, the break, all of that is the same as it's been the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So if you're a team that's saying, we pay attention to the advanced analytics, and we're not worried about the rough patch that Scott Barlow had for a couple of weeks. We've seen what he's done in his career, and the spin rate's there, the break is there, the drop is there, all of those things are there. He's getting soft contact. The 350 batting average to balls in play is not going to continue for this guy that's getting the soft contact. Yeah, we're gonna acquire him. You'd have to have a team that's very much into the advanced analytics to value him the way that probably the Royals value him.
And they are. All teams are.
Most of them are.
That's why they have the departments. And so, the walks might be up a little bit. Look, I last week when I drove in here, I got every flipping red light that was here. And today, of the 20 lights I went through, I got like every green light. It took me almost like half the time to get here. So still got here. Still the same, I mean, it's
a different way of getting there.
It's a different way of getting there. So look, Barlow might be up a little bit, but I still think he's going to be gone by the end of the day. Yeah. And oh, please, he's a valuable. Get something great from him.
We'll see what that happens. We always get something great from you, Les.
Well, I don't know about that, but I appreciate the lie.
More often than the Royals do. I mean, like they give us something good.
That brings me no
couple
comfort.
Times a week.
Dude, they swept the series. Hey,
they
by
swept
the way,
series and then immediately trashed all of those good vibes.
Yes.
God.
But look, right now, What Major League team has the longest winning streak in the major leagues?
Your Kansas City
Is it
mother
really?
bleeping
It
Royals.
is,
It
with
sure
three.
is.
Three-game winning streak.
It sure
Yep.
is.
They lead the major leagues in the biggest winning streak active right now.
Take that, MLB. Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City. You're here for the rest of the day, so not a lot of team control. So we're trading you for someone who's going to be around for the next years, and that's Todd Lebo. So we'll be trading Les Norman for Todd Lebo. We get years of control with Lebo.
Yeah.
We trade the talent right now for the prospect of talent.
You know what?
Maybe down the road.
You guys, if you're trading me for Lebo, you got the better end of that deal. I'll say that for sure.
I'm starting to wonder about any attachments of maybe a player to be named later, and if I should just go ahead and pack up my bag.
Also trading him for cash considerations. We are going to consider paying you more, Les. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but we will consider that.
That's all right. Just trade me to a contender.
That's right. We're doing that. We'll take a timeout. Thank you, Les. You're the man. Breaking the Norm. Les Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, thank you to Les Norman. We'll talk with Todd Lebo coming up at the top of the 1 o'clock hour. The Blue Jays acquired Paul DeJong from the St. Louis Cardinals shortstop. It's Bo Bichette's injury. Still see what the extent of that is. Paul Sterling DeJong.
Adding him to another great list of famous Sterlings.
That's right. Nicknamed Paulie.
How'd they come up with that?
Happy birthday, Paulie. So that's the only thing I think of when I hear Paulie.
Not the Jersey Shore?
Yeah, it's fine, but
I never watched it.
Your generation might be the more no, my generation. Jersey Shore was on when I was in college, so yeah. But Paulie from Rocky. Happy birthday, Paulie. Paul DeYoung is 29.
Uh-oh, we got something?
No.
No, come on!
His birthday's tomorrow.
Whoa!
Happy birthday, Paulie.
There it is. That's amazing, actually. All right, fine.
All right, there you go.
I thought Brady Singer was getting traded. You found out that Paul DeYoung's birthday's tomorrow.
You know what, Paul? How about this? For your 30th birthday, you should go to a different country and celebrate. Go celebrate that in Canada. Okay, go to Toronto and celebrate your 30th birthday.
Now, the issue here is that I'm seeing conflicting birthdays for Paul DeYoung. Because Baseball Reference says August 2nd, 1993.
That's what I've got is Baseball Reference on it.
Spotrac has him at being 29 years and 6 days old.
That would mean he was born not a day from now.
Did I say 90? Did I say 90? What did I say?
I have no idea.
Okay, I see. You're just saying, yes, they're the disagreement. 29 and 6 days on Spotrac. I say the name of that site different every time just for fun.
Yep.
29 and 364 days on Baseball Reference. So there's not just a week of disagreement. There's a year of disagreement.
Wikipedia says August 2nd.
What year?
93.
Okay, that's what Baseball Reference has.
So Wikipedia and Baseball Reference have that. I'm going to go with them over Spotrac. I'm going to believe Spotrac's contract for him.
Yeah.
I'm going to believe the birth date for Paul DeYoung is Wikipedia and Baseball Reference.
I'm going to check the Cardinals website also. We're going to get to the bottom of this.
That's what I'm going to go with.
The most important news of the day. August 2nd, 1993 on the Cardinals website. That feels probably correct.
Maybe. I don't know.
Happy early birthday, Paul.
Yeah, there you go.
Enjoy Canada.
Paulie. Controllable starters are out there. Mark Feinsand's talked about it. Logan Gilbert of the Mariners and Mitch Keller of the Pirates. The White Sox have already said they're not trading Dylan Cease. Brady Singer is a Royal.
Joel Sherman just tweeted that they're starting to get some serious offers
for Dylan Cease.
For Dylan Cease,
Oof.
And they're thinking about moving Tim Anderson as well.
Interesting. Well, Tim Anderson was talked about maybe going to Toronto if Bo Bichette's injury was serious. But Mark Feinsand wrote last night, Logan Gilbert, Mitch Keller, Dylan Cease, and Brady Singer have all drawn significant interest, but the price tags are understandably high. So we'll see if any of those players move, and it'll be interesting to see what the return will be, because we know what the return was for Aaron Savali, what the return would be for Dylan Cease, Logan Gilbert, Mitch Keller, or Brady Singer. And Buster Olney tweeted out an hour ago and said, industry staffer, that the last couple of hours will be very busy with buyers and sellers getting towards crunch time, and not necessarily panicking, but you start to make some moves and okay some deals of, all right, fine, we'll trade this guy if that means we get this player. We got to get this player. We're getting close. We've held out as long as we can. All right, fine, we're just going to trade. We've said what the ceiling is or what the floor is for this guy to get what we need to get in return for this player. All right, there's 30 minutes left. Let's get this deal done and make the move. That Buster Olney says in this market today, with the seller's market and so many teams that are in contention or close to being in contention, that changed over the weekend with the Padres and the Cubs winning and moving into buyers, that the last couple of hours could be very busy with trades being pulled off left and right with a lot of pitchers.
If it's a seller's market for multi-year control starting pitchers, and the Royals, who are the worst team in baseball who is even trying to win, only 2 games up on the A's, by the way.
I like that description. Worst team in baseball that's trying to win.
They are 10 games back of the next. They're 10 games locked into the lottery. Actually, it's even more than that. They're 10 games away from 3 of 3 there.
Yeah.
If that team doesn't see a seller's market for young pitchers with multiple years of control and has a pitcher who has shown flashes of brilliance, streaks of brilliance, but also moments of, are we sure about this guy? If they don't move Brady Singer here, it's going to reaffirm a whole lot of things we've been concerned about. If they finesse a little deal for him right at the buzzer tonight, we're back. JJ Picollo gets the crown tomorrow.
I was trying to paraphrase. Let me just say exactly what Buster only said, is that there will be a barrage of starting pitcher deals completed today, maybe in the last couple of hours before the deadline, as desperation begins to factor in for both buyers and sellers.
Starve them out, JJ.
That's right, desperation. See what you got. We'll find out.
You know what you don't have to get desperate for?
What, NHRA tickets?
Some NHRA Nationals drag race tickets.
That is one hell of a guess by me.
It really is.
What are the odds of that?
You nailed it.
I mean, that's like luck of the Irish, only I'm not Irish, so I don't know. You tell me. NHRA Nationals drag racing fans, if you want to score some free tickets to the big race this summer at Heartland Park, Motorsports Park in Topeka, how about one pair or two pair?
You know what? Let's get wild. It's a seller's market. I don't know what that means. 2 pairs of tickets we're giving away right now.
We're selling them for free.
That's right.
2 pair of tickets, selling those for free. If you call in and want one ticket, we're going to give the second one for the same price as the first one. A pair of tickets, caller 8, caller 10.
Sounds good to me.
All right, you get a pair of tickets to the NHRA Nationals drag race coming up. Heartland Park Motorsports Park in Topeka. Also, you can go to heartlandmotorsports.us and use the promo code 810radio and get a 20% discount there if you want to buy your tickets. Caller 8, caller 10.
The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won Super Bowl 57!
The best Chiefs coverage.
Todd Lebo with us here on this Tuesday edition of The Zone. We'll play a little Fact or Fiction coming up in the next segment. We are certainly keeping an eye on the trade deadline and things that may be going on around Major League Baseball. Chiefs with the off day today. Talked with Adam Teicher in the 11 o'clock hour. Thank you to Les Norman in the previous hour. Also what is going on at the current hour. The Pac-12 presenting the media rights update to the Pac-12 presidents and athletic directors.
So it's all settled then.
It is done.
All figured out.
They got it all figured out.
They said we're not going to have any more meetings.
They got it all figured out to the tune of George Kliavkoff has asked the conference presidents and ADs for another meeting and a little more time.
Let's have a little
after
more meetings.
Presenting the initial deal today.
So it doesn't sound to me like everyone said, you know what, George killed it. Let's
Sounds
go.
good.
Let's sign it up right now.
These are the options on the table. Hell yeah. I mean, how could you go wrong? Let's
I think
do
it
this.
Might be these are the option on the table.
These are the option? That was
That's
it's like the Nicky Lopez.
Yes, I was thinking
option.
the same thing. You got Taylor Hearn of the Big 12.
I keep seeing things like very little actual like linear television in the things they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And, listen, I know people are cutting cords and blah, 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 but there are still 80 to 100 million people who watch things on TV.
Yep.
So you don't want to just throw it all out.
Yeah,
the future.
The report from Jason Shear that works for Wildcat Authority, covers the Arizona Wildcats, said that there were before the meeting, there were going to be 3 deals presented. Some that were a higher base with also some less incentives in terms of like subscriptions and things like that. Some with a lower base,
like
but
when Washington leaves, it's all over.
Higher subscriptions, things like that. And he said none expected to be favorable.
Yeah.
And that's probably what happened since the meeting took
Bringing
place.
home a bad report card.
And George Kliavkoff has said, hey, maybe another meeting and more time. More time, we'll get this whole thing figured out.
Here's
because
the deal.
Arizona's Board of Regents are meeting today at 3:30 Mountain Time, 4:30 local time. They are meeting to discuss the future of Arizona and Arizona State.
This never happened to me, okay? I didn't bring home a midterm that was like a C+, and you go, listen, if I do this extra credit,
It's more time.
have me another meeting, give me a little more time, I'm going to get this thing
Mom,
up here.
Dad, I
It's
got
okay.
this. Have some faith in me,
This
okay?
sounds like he walked in there sheepishly with a crappy midterm.
Don't leave me behind and go to the Big 12, okay?
No.
I still want to be a part of this
Give
family.
me a minute.
I want to be in this family.
Don't send me to military school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do better.
Is the Pac-12 going to be saved, or is this just a
I don't
matter of
know.
like a time before Arizona, Arizona State, and whoever else is announcing they're joining the Big 12? Because this seems pretty ominous that he presents this and then says, well, let's do some more meetings and more time.
Right.
Like, what do you need more time for? This
You
is
just had all this
You were
time.
presenting the deals to Arizona and Arizona State, really, but the Pac-12, because those are the teams that are saying,
there's stuff. You saw Pete Thamel's article last
Yeah.
night. I mean, they're talking about Big Ten
yeah,
getting bigger.
Yeah.
And, there's ACC issues, maybe SEC and Big Ten getting on some of those. I kind of thought, I think a lot of people assumed what would happen is just because of geography, that the Big 12 would be the one that falls apart and everyone just kind of jumps and moves other places. But right now they've been very aggressive, and maybe they'll be the one that saves, and then people are just going to pick stragglers off from the Pac-12, which could be what happens in the end here. It doesn't sound to me like this Arizona meeting is going to have a vote today.
yeah.
Because they've been asked for more meetings.
It could.
But they could say, "Hey, listen."
You could advance one way or another.
Right.
Of, hey, if this is the best week, because there's going to be lawyers there with the
Yeah.
Board of Regents, they're going
Well,
to go
he
into
can't come back
executive
with
session.
a worse offer.
Yeah, right. But if they say if this is the best we can get,
Yeah.
then this is the decision we're going to have to make
20%
moving
better
forward.
than this, or
yeah,
something,
or this
yeah.
is the decision, viability moving forward with these other Power 5 conference teams and what we could do in the Big 12 if Arizona and Arizona State both are going to leave, or the report is that the Board of Regents will not block Arizona if they're the only ones that are invited to the Big 12. So they won't say you've got to take Arizona State too.
Mm-hmm.
They would allow Arizona to go to the Big 12 without it. That's at least a report. Who knows what happens in the meetings.
But Oklahoma State, all of that stuff, I mean, they ended up splitting up, but that's not the same as like, Board of Regents being in charge of Arizona State, and Northern Arizona.
Yeah, every state's put together. We found that at NIL.
Yes,
you
we
do
did.
whatever you want.
Absolutely did.
You can do it however you'd like to. It doesn't mean that there wouldn't be a lawsuit or something. There'll be lawsuits in all of these things. That usually ends up what happens with all this. But here, let me ask you this right now. So the Big 12 next year, right now, is going to have 13 teams.
Yes. They refuse to be at 12, no matter what.
They're going to add at least one or three more or whatever. I think they should add 3 and get to 16
I agree.
and see what's up. So they got Colorado coming in. Give me your best 3 besides those. What do you want?
Oregon, Washington, Arizona State.
Well, that's 4 more.
It's
You
4.
only have 3.
You
already got Colorado. You took them first.
Leave Arizona State out of it.
Arizona State. You want
Oregon, Washington,
Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the right answer. Although I like Arizona,
I say get to
Arizona
17.
Yeah,
Oregon, Washington, and Arizona. Those are the brands.
If you got to be that picky, I think Oregon and Washington are probably the most obvious ones. Which still, Oregon to the Big Ten still makes sense. So I think maybe Oregon solves that for you. You try to get Washington and the Arizona schools over. But you asked what we want, and I think Jason's answer is probably right.
What if I told you? I would say
30 for 30.
You know what I would love? Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona. How about that?
How about
Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri?
Ooh, love that.
So I think that'd be awesome.
Do you think you could coax the Nebraska down? I don't know if they'd be interested in the Big 12.
They're gone.
Fine.
How about if I said, all right, you got it. Arizona seems like they're coming. Let's go Arizona, Utah, UConn.
Boy, yeah, UConn hasn't gotten talked about in a little bit.
I know.
They do have Division I football. They're my opinion, it's blue blood.
It might be the best basketball school in America.
I keep hanging on this.
And people are going to think that that's just men's basketball. I mean, basketball school, both men's and women's.
I keep listening. I keep remembering what Brett Yormark said on that podcast with Joel Klatt, I believe. And one of the things he talked about, he just mentioned basketball at the end. Basketball is going to be important in this thing. If that's the case, then I think that if you're going to go, if that's true, because Colorado doesn't fit that.
Yeah.
And Tad Boyle's been fine. As good as they've had at Colorado. Yeah. They go to the tournament occasionally. Kansas fans who live in western Kansas would love to go back out to Boulder and watch games like they used to all the time. But if you had UConn in, and they play football, it's fine. Okay? It's not the greatest football in the world, but that's really high-level basketball, as you said, men's and women's. And I do think from the people you kind of hear talking about it, BYU would welcome Utah as a
they played in the same conference for like 50 years.
Let's fight. You know, let's do it. Let's have a rivalry. Because what you lose in these things is you lose a lot of these rivalries. If they can find a way to bring a rival with them, I think that would be pretty cool. Like when you think back to when the Southwest Conference fell apart, the beginning of them falling apart was Arkansas leaving. Okay? Well, they went to the Southeast Conference with South Carolina. Well, they were just, I mean, honestly, they were the stepchild. They had a stepchild in the East and a stepchild in the West. They've been there for 32 years, and people still don't think they're part of the thing, even though they've added now 4 more schools since then or whatever. So if you brought someone along with you, because that's I think why the Big 12 worked at the beginning. It didn't work because
4 schools.
They brought people who had played each other, and Oklahoma, Texas had been a thing for 70 years or whatever. So that they brought something into the thing that I think, and they didn't have to fight to figure out who was a rival. It took a little while, but I mean, K-State and Texas turned into rivals real quickly. Kansas and Texas and basketball turned into a great thing. I mean, so it worked a little bit. I think, Utah, I think, boy, that's a really good football program. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with their basketball. I mean, that team's gone to the Final Four.
Been to a Final Four.
Years. They've had
that ain't easy to do.
First round.
Anybody can do it.
And all that.
It ain't easy to go to the Final Four.
I do think Oregon's brand is something. Washington's got. I think people in Washington care about the Huskies. I do. I think
that rivalry is not in the same state, but that would be a real little rivalry to bring with you if you could get both of them.
That's absolutely a rivalry if you do that. So I'm not against any of those.
I think Utah would be perfectly fine, and I think the BYU connection is there. It's odd that conference realignment broke up that rivalry when Utah went to the Pac-12. That it then can also maybe save the rivalry, although they're playing still.
Yeah, they do. I don't
They're
know
playing
if they play all the time, but
No,
they do play.
They've played like 4 times since Utah went, and they've got a game scheduled for next year. So maybe that just gets taken care of, and it's in a Big 12 game, or it's like
Could be.
whatever. It's like
Utah had to do a lot of work on their
can't-
scheduling because they're independent.
Yeah.
and they had a whole bunch of how there's 3
BYU.
of your
BYU, yeah.
everyone's got like 3 games scheduled out or whatever. BYU had all their games scheduled out. They had, but I remember watching them when they had their initial press conference that they were coming to the Big 12. They had always been writing their conference or their LonCon because they did a con. They had already been writing their contracts. Like, listen, if we're in a league, sorry, this is out.
Yeah.
And they had to pull
That's
that out on a bunch
smart.
of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's been lots of those things that had to move around.
Well, I
over
mean,
the bit.
I know it's basketball, not football, but Kansas and Houston are playing down in Mexico, and that's not even a Big 12 game. That's just a game that's not a Big 12 game. So Utah and BYU could play next September and not be a Big 12 game, even though they might maybe be in the Big 12 when they played.
Could be figured out. There'll be some things that go through the rest of these, but Arizona is cool. I mean, that's the one that seems like there's real smoke and fire about this thing.
They're the ones that they're the ones that have been talking like for the last 3 months. They've been talked about as being discussing with the Big 12.
And that is basketball more than football.
Yeah.
Their football is okay, but they haven't. You saw the Dan Lanning clip yesterday. I don't remember Colorado doing it. What do they won in
What
this
has
league?
Colorado won in this league? So you remember anything?
What has Arizona won in football in that league?
But in basketball, Simon says championship.
Yeah, and they've weathered the storm with all the troubles and all that stuff. They're still, they've been able to get people like DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, legends,
right?
NBA superstars.
Just keep him
home.
Number 1 overall picks that then go on to have the same career as the guys who got drafted right behind them.
Which, by the way, the basketball over football, somebody should let Keanu Reeves know in the movie Speed, because it's always bothered me and will continue to bother me that when he figures out that they're being spoiler alert, that they're being videotaped, right? That he can see everything that's going on, right? He sees that Sandra Bullock, she has a shirt on that's Arizona, and who's the bad guys?
Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper kept calling and saying, "Hey," and that Wildcat behind the wheel. She had an Arizona shirt, and that's when he realized, oh my God, he's watching us, and he goes, "You an Arizona fan? It's a good football team." Lute Olson was at the height of Arizona, and football did nothing. And when that movie came out, Arizona was a national brand in basketball. Why did they say good football team for Arizona instead of Arizona? It's a good basketball team.
Could have just said good team.
Good team, right? And you would have thought basketball. It's always bothered me since the first time I saw that. Like, what? Football? No, they're not.
What was the year? That 90?
I'm going to say 93.
Something like that.
93, 94?
Okay, back then. That was the old...
it was still Lute Olson, though,
no,
when they were
what
playing.
Was what was their...
94 for Speed.
What was their coach's
You guys can
name?
figure out the rest.
Dick Tomey. Was he out there?
I have no idea.
Came out in June 94. I wasn't born yet.
Maybe they had just come off some crazy year.
But I'm just saying, like, you're talking about football at the time?
Probably not great. Well, that was Dick Tomey, though. They were all right, right? No, Larry Smith was there. No, that's 84. Dick Tomey was there in 94. Oh, they were 10-2 in 93. There you go.
Go football team.
Football team.
Good football team.
Won the Fiesta Bowl. That's your deal right there. That's it.
They lost the Sun Bowl the year before, so whenever
they were
over 500.
They were coming off a Final Four.
Oh, whatever.
When they made that movie.
Whatever.
They were a top 25 team all 3 of those years, 93, 94, 95.
Football?
In football.
Whatever. Why are you guys trying to make it sound like Keanu Reeves was right?
I'm just trying to help you work through this because this is going to be cheaper than you taking therapy time to work through what this thing was from Speed that bothered you from 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
I've got that scheduled later today, so thank
good.
you.
No, that's good. Everyone should.
What a great
I just want you to get to the real stuff, and we can let Dick Tomey go.
That was a wonderful year that Arizona had there.
Yeah.
Fiesta
Wonderful.
Bowl champs, go to the Final
Four. Not bad.
What a time to be a Wildcat back then, man.
Good football team.
Good football team.
Good football team.
Dick Tomey, bear down, baby.
You got a Fiesta Bowl.
What if he said that? He's like, good football team. Dick Tomey's great coach.
That would have been
absolutely
fantastic.
Great coach. Wildcat.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, they in the top 10 team that year. And here's the problem. Like in '98, I remember they were good another time. They had one good quarterback, but go 12-1, win the Holiday Bowl. And then, it's the way the Pac-12
right,
was.
the Pac-12 at the time,
You
yeah.
didn't get to go to this.
Yeah.
You lose a tiebreaker, you're out. When's the last time they were in a Rose Bowl?
I don't know. They're a good football team, so they should have been there more than than an average team, I would guess. But we'll see what happens with the Arizona Board of Regents later today. The feeling also is that you mentioned the Pete Thamel piece last night at ESPN, and he had said that sources are saying that the one individual team doesn't want to be viewed as breaking up the Pac-12.
Right.
So it would be Arizona,
Let's do it
Arizona
together,
State, Utah.
man.
They said this particular source said all three or none.
Right.
All three would leave, or none would leave. We'll see if none leave or
and
if all three
there's
leave.
been plenty of ACC troubles as well.
Yeah.
So they're going to be a factor in this as we go forward. It's crazy stuff, man. It
But
doesn't
you know what?
seem to ever end.
But you know what? For the local schools, they are on solid footing for first time in a long time. Because when Oklahoma and Texas went to the SEC, I remember doing the show right here with Corey, being an Oklahoma State fan, right there, and he was distraught. And he was like, this just sucks. He's like, it sucks being a fan of a team of a conference that's about to be picked apart and dissolve, and who knows where they're going to end up, and are they going to be playing in
Credit
the
Brett
AAC?
Yormark, man.
Right.
He's done a great job.
And somehow Oklahoma and Texas, may have saved the Big 12. I've talked about this for a while, that when Oklahoma and Texas went to the SEC and USC and UCLA were like, well, bleep that. We need to get on the same plane.
Right.
It opened up the West to
Yeah.
the Big 12. And now Oklahoma and Texas leaving could have actually saved the Big 12 and opening up the West and grabbing some Pac-12 schools and being on solid footing and maybe being a conference that gets to 16 and 16 teams that are like, oh, it's not 16 teams with UCF and USF and Cincinnati and Houston and BYU and East Carolina or, schools like that. No, you could be adding Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah. That's a vastly different beast when you're talking about getting to 16 from where they were the
Right.
day that Oklahoma and Texas, all of a sudden, they were going to the SEC.
Yeah, it was a mess back then.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done a good job. Brett Yormark's done a great job.
Yeah.
He got the TV deal done before. He brought it to their, decision makers, and
Yeah.
they didn't say, let's have another meeting. They said, okay, let's sign this. It's a good deal. Now, the byproduct of this, I was talking to my buddy about this today. What is going to happen, we're going to see this a lot. KU has 2 Friday football games this year. They wanted to do the first one because it was Labor Day weekend, but they're playing Illinois the second week of the year on a Friday. They're going to be playing on Thursdays and Fridays, a lot more of that. That was kind of the thing they had to do to get the TV deal they got. They said, well, we want inventory on other days.
Yeah.
So get used to it, and that's maybe not great. I know Kansas high school football starts that week, so then, the coaches who want to go out and watch kids play, that'll be the first 2 Fridays where they won't get to go. But listen, don't look at it like this is the MAC now, and this is MACtion. Right. This is the price of keeping the Big 12 together is, you know what? You can have a couple of Fridays here or there, not just Thursdays. Thursdays, I don't think people minded. They've been having a Thursday game or two for quite a while in the Big 12. Fridays,
schools don't like Fridays. The coaches don't like Friday night football. They don't like playing on the Friday nights. But it's
competing
price
with
of
high
doing
school
business.
football and all that. So those things will be happening more as we kind of move along throughout this new deal when it really gets going. But that's a small price to pay for keeping your league together and, being able to fund all your other sports with legitimate money from the TV deals and everything that they're not getting at some of these other places as of yet, till they show back up with another proposal.
Well, you mentioned the MAC as like, hey, they're not the MAC. MACtion's a real thing. There are MAC tweets on my timeline every football season because that's the thing that's on and people are watching it.
Wednesday nights, it's
a little,
MACtion, baby.
A little Thursday night, Friday night, Big 12 standalone game.
The tweets don't pay coaches $6 million a year. That's the difference. So,
but the TV deals do.
Yeah, but the TV deals aren't that much though. That like you don't like why Cincinnati running to here, Houston running to here, going from $8 or $9 million a year to 30.
Yeah.
And the MAC ones are even different than that. So I appreciate the fact that there is a buzz about it.
Yeah.
But the real buzz, the real eyeballs are on Saturdays at different times. So
I'm assuming there might be some trade questions in Fact or Fiction.
There might be.
So I'm not going to ask
You guys
Todd.
can talk about it all you want. I'm just not going to. I'll pull my hat down.
Before we move on,
like
to that,
Andy Pettit over
I
here.
want to ask you to tell me Arizona's never been in a Rose Bowl. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So this is probably never going to happen for them. Can you tell me the first bowl game that Arizona played in? I just looked this up. This bowl does not exist anymore. It's something you may get at a restaurant before your meal.
The
bread bowl,
mozzarella stick bowl,
salad bowl,
the salad bowl.
Get out! What?
There's a real game called the salad bowl.
Wow!
There you go. So you want to come on to the Big 12? Leave the salad.
Bring your salad bowl.
The salad days are gone.
You don't have to cook a salad either.
No.
You just make a salad.
Just make it by you and put some meat on top of it. Yeah, just make a salad.
Yeah,
There
we
you go.
figured that out yesterday. All right, we'll take a timeout. Fact or fiction coming up next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Hey, I'd love to do something for you. I'd love to do you a favor. Just want to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. It is one of the absolute best ways to play fantasy football. And right now, it's like the only way to do it reasonably, because what you can do in Underdog is you can hop into the biggest fantasy football tournament of all time, if that appeals to you. That's Best Ball Mania 4. You can hop in there and compete for $15 million in total prizes, $3 million to first place, and it lets you get your fantasy football season up and running right now. You want to get into the process again of getting your big board ready, going through the drafts, being worried, and then eventually being annoyed at everybody right ahead of you who takes the guy you've had on your board. Well, you can do that in Underdog, and you can draft as much as you want, because you're never going to have to pay the piper in week 1 where you start realizing, hold on, I got to reset. How many lineups? Not the case for Best Ball. You just set your lineup, pick all your guys. You don't set the lineup at all. You pick your roster, set all of that up, make your draft picks, experience the most fun of fantasy football, in my humble opinion, which is the draft itself, and then you can set it and forget it. Underdog will take it from there. They'll make sure you have your best contributors each week showing up in your starting lineup. It's a great way to play fantasy, and if you haven't done it yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. I can send you over to UnderdogFantasy.com, where you can sign up there or via the App Store with promo code BRISCO, okay? Promo code BRISCO when you sign up with Underdog Fantasy, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code BRISCO. Must be 18 and over or present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Football season is right around the corner, and all Jayhawk fans are invited to the inaugural Kansas Football Kickoff Party on Friday, August 18th from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. in the indoor practice facility just west of David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium. The event will feature inflatables and other activities for kids, music, tailgating games, a photo booth, and an up-close look at the new uniforms, along with the latest KU gear to purchase, food trucks, and more. Hear from Coach Leipold and others as the new season is upon us. That's the Kansas Football Kickoff Party on August 18th, beginning at 6:30 p.m.
I'm here at the racetrack with Brad McGee from LBA Home Services.
Hi there.
Let me guess, you're going to pick the trifecta.
The what?
You know, the first, second, and third horse to win the race, in order.
No, I'm not going to do that.
But that would be a perfect bet.
No, that would be guessing.
But you...
Remember, I work at LBA Home Services, and we never gamble.
But...
When we fix your air conditioner, we find the problem and solve it fast. It's not a bet, it's a process.
But you always want a perfect outcome.
And that's not a gamble. The AC techs at LBA, absolute perfectionists. We don't wait till the end to see who's gonna win. We already know.
You tricked me this time.
Using skills and experience is not a trick. It just means there's no mystery about the outcome. We fix your AC to factory specifications.
So it's running...
perfectly, and the homeowner wins every time.
One simple idea, one name to remember.
Just remember LBA.
LBAservices.com.
If you're on the job day in and day out, you know living with pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulders is miserable. The good...
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Let's do a little fact or fiction, shall we?
Is that something you'd be interested in?
Shall we play some fact or fiction here?
Yeah, I'd love to. I could probably whip up a few.
Okay. If you are interested in that fact or fiction, the Royals will make another trade. I don't know. That might be something you're coming up with. So
it's involved in there somewhere.
Anyway, so should we start with Todd first?
I think, we've played this game quite a bit. I think it's time to switch things up some. So, Lebo, if you don't mind going first
I'll
today,
go first.
I think we should try to.
Cool, let's
I'm
do that.
ready.
But, getting Bobby Witt out of the leadoff spot was really good for his game. So
right.
We'll have Lebo lead off here. Lebo, you get to open it up with the Royals. After having some time to digest the Nicky Lopez trade and hearing J.J. Piccolo last night, I have regained confidence in the Royals' plan.
That's fiction.
Drake?
I also believe fiction.
I think the answer is fiction, but for some reason I'm being pulled. It's like a tractor beam. I'm being pulled towards fact. For
Go
some
ahead
reason.
and pull it.
I'm going fact.
You're going Really? That's fiction, dude. Damn it. I thought that was one of those meatballs for everybody. No, I have no confidence.
It felt like it was too easy. Like it was.
Yeah.
He wants to just play from behind.
I respect you playing that game.
It's quiet. Yeah, a little too quiet.
Quiet.
Unsuspecting.
Well, I'm trying to, give you guys more to think about in fact or fiction. Like in this one, when I say fact or fiction, grabbing Tucker Davidson for cash considerations is good process. Fact or fiction, Drake?
Fact.
Jason?
Fact.
That feels like fact. You're just paying some money for a dude.
Absolutely fact.
That is a fact. It may be a fact, but it's inexplicable.
Bring in a guy. See, you don't have to trade anyone away for this guy who got DFA'd. You got for cash considerations.
You need to fill all of your teams.
And keep trading your relievers. Bring in. That's totally fine. That one, no blockbuster,
more
but
players.
Good process, though. Will the good process continue, however? Jason, at least 2 more Royals pitchers will be traded by 5 o'clock today. That's not a trap. If the trade comes out at 5:05, it counts.
Okay.
At least
Before
2
the
more
trading
Royals
deadline,
pitchers will be moved today.
I'm going to say fact.
2, at least 2. I mean, I think we're seeing names like Taylor Clark around. So they've already made 3 moves since Sunday. So I'll say fact.
I will add fact as well.
Facts across the board. I sure hope it's true.
Fact.
Are you rooting for this to happen?
Yes, very much so.
I'm just checking.
Very much so. Have I not been clear about that?
Yeah.
Fact or fiction? Bobby Witt Jr. has established his floor as a very good player. Now it's about superstardom, and at least Royals fans have that. Fact or fiction, Lebo?
If you'd asked this question last year about Brady Singer, everyone would have said fact.
Probably so.
It's not exactly fact, so I'm a little bit worried, but I think hitting and fielding is different than pitching. Whoa, we just broke some ground there. We've seen some pretty good stuff with Bobby. Looks like he's got if this is as bad as it is, or if it's just a little bit worse than this, I'll go fact on this. I'll go fact. I'm hopeful.
I will double Lebo's opinion there.
Jason?
Fact.
It's a fact.
All right.
There's some wiggle room where he could theoretically struggle for a stretch of time and still not change. I think his floor is
looks like a player
set up high, and that's a nice thing to have.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
They need that.
All right, I'm done with the Royals.
About 4 more of those.
So fact or fiction? I think my favorite NFL futures bet of the year right now is fewest wins in the season at plus 1,200 for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Ooh, interesting. So they have the number 1 pick in the draft.
All right.
It's Drake first, I think.
Yeah, it is Drake. Sorry.
That's right.
Whew.
So read it to me again.
My favorite NFL futures bet right now is the Raiders to have the fewest wins in football at plus 1,200.
That's pretty great, but I think that's a red herring. I think you've got something you like more that you're going to hit us with afterwards, so I'm going to say fiction.
I am also going to say fiction.
Well, I know we were talking earlier today, and you let the cat out of the bag. You loved some AFC West futures.
We talked about some of them on the show yesterday, so you guys are all on equal footing there.
So the word favorite does scare me, but I'm willing to risk it, because if I miss it, I'll just be tied with Anderson here. So I'm willing to risk it and go opposite of whatever they said. So I'll go it's fact.
It's a fact!
Yeah, baby!
It's a fact. Yeah, it's a fact.
I think there's a real good chance that they end up being the worst team in football, but it's a $10 bet that gives you a triple-digit return. That, to me, that's why it's an objective or very subjective favorite.
Not bad.
You guys ready for a game within a game?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Welcome to Camp Over Reactions a Fact or Fiction mini game. Fact or Fiction, whoever's up first. You back to Drake again? Or Lebo again? Jason again?
Jason.
Yep, we're number 6.
Yep.
Camp overreactions. Jason, Justin Ross, making the team. Done. Over. Sharpie.
Well, is that an overreaction or is that?
Sorry,
just
it's
the
still
fact
Fact or Fiction, but this is the Camp overreaction
Okay.
subsection of Fact or Fiction.
Mini game. It's like that NBA tournament.
It's exactly. It's an
happening
in-season tournament. Yeah, we can actually keep separate scores here too, if you'd like.
Because I didn't want to say fact, and then you go, it's fiction. It's not an overreaction. He's making the squad.
No, good call.
So fact, he is making the squad.
It's all fact. Everyone keeps talking about 7 wide receivers. Fact.
I think they might flip him to somebody else. They're hyping him up to flip. I'll say fiction.
Ooh, it's a fact, Drake. Get out of town.
Trading.
Get out of
This is
town.
the best superstar wide receiver they're going to have for the next 10 years.
1,000-yard receiver this year.
Easily.
Fact or Fiction, Rashee Rice, wide receiver 2 in 2023.
Well, they don't really assign things. The X, the Y, the Z, whatever.
You know what I mean.
Okay, yeah, he's going to have good stride. I'm gonna go fiction there. I'll go fiction.
Drake?
I say fiction as well. I think it'll be Sky.
I go fiction.
I think it's also fiction. I think it might be MVS, honestly, but I think Sky and MVS continue to be the incumbents there.
I will say this again. I'm not worried about the Chiefs wide receivers. I've been saying that for months. Everyone's been freaking out.
Tysher being the soothing voice of reason. I know. Of like, hey guys, I think they're going to be fine. Even though Kadarius Toney, like, all right, Adam, he doesn't sugarcoat things for no reason. So we're turning the vibes around. But you already led into this one, Lebo. A little bit of a spoiler of the topic. The question, though, fact or fiction, the Chiefs will have 7 wide receivers on their initial 53-man roster. Again, not a little play on words there, just when that first 53-man roster process is through.
If Jody Fortson is on the roster, will he be listed as a wideout or a tight end?
Tight end.
Fiction.
He will be on the roster, by the way, Drake, so don't even say if like that.
I'm going to say fact.
I think it's a fact.
I think it's a fact.
No, that's a fact. I saw it on PBS.
I think right now smart money is that Kadarius Toney makes the 53
somehow,
gets IR'd, could return after 4, and then it's funny. I was looking at this because we're talking about Elijah Lee and Blake Bell. This year, Blake Bell could be the vested veteran who they cut, doesn't have to go through waivers, who they could bring right back again.
Interesting.
And he was they did that with Elijah Lee to do that too. So I think they're keeping 7, but 6 will be active. Fact or fiction? Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's demise has been greatly exaggerated.
I am going to say that is a fact.
Yeah, I think it is a fact. I mean, he is still. I mean, listen, they don't have as many running backs there to get the reps because there's a little bit of limitation with Isaiah. It's a monstrous year, obviously, for Clyde. He needs to make the most of every opportunity. So I'll say fact. It's been a little bit overdone.
Tysher swayed me today. I'll say fact.
It's a fact. You're all right. Tysher's right. We're all right. There's just reps to be had. He knows the system. It makes more sense than to bring in some brand new fresh face, especially while everyone's banged up.
I've never heard anyone say he's been a bad teammate in any way through any of this either. So that's
which is an interesting little tidbit considering that so much of the off the field stuff with him post parade, ring ceremony, that kind of thing, he just hasn't been around. People made a lot about that. No one with the Chiefs has seemed to indicate that they have any that he's been, like you said, that he's been a problem or anything.
Right.
So I think he's sticking around. Fact or fiction? Richie James will have more receptions in 2023 than Kadarius Toney. I love this one.
Me,
I hope you love this one also. Yes.
That's a fact. I mean, if Kadarius Toney doesn't play the first 4 games, and I still don't think Kadarius Toney's going to get 120 targets, man. Not happening. I think they love Richie James. Fact.
James caught an awful lot with a subpar quarterback before. I'd say he gets more, so fact.
It's time to play the game.
Come on, dude. You know my answer.
This is the Richie James guy.
It's a fact.
Yeah, it's fiction.
Fiction?
Yeah, it's fiction. Sorry, it's fiction.
No.
It doesn't matter.
I like Richie James. He's making the roster. He's going to have a role. But I have not, I can't fully let go of Kadarius Toney yet.
I know.
Look, let me see him have one fully healthy practice. Oh, I'm never gonna. That's never gonna happen.
Don't hold your breath.
Not with the Chiefs.
Well, even if you disagree, you all disagreed unanimously, so this won't affect the game, which will keep me from
Kadarius Toney and Joe Burrow
roll of quarters
will just never play. We'll just never have training camp and preseason games.
That's what
Toney and Burrow just for the rest of their career just won't participate in training camp.
The Chiefs probably take that trade.
Sure,
right?
Yes.
I mean, you guys can get back to the regular season, and we'll figure it out. Fact or fiction on the defensive side? Camp over? Reaction? Drew Tranquill will be second on the team in linebacker snaps this season.
It's Drake first,
To
right?
me. I think they like him a lot. If he can stay healthy, I'd say that's fact.
I'm going to go fact.
I'm going to fiction that one.
It's a fact. A little bit of a cold shot, but I think that love fest between Spags and Drew Tranquill is very real, and I think he might, this is a stretch, might take a few snaps from Nick Bolton if Spags trusts him to step in for Nick Bolton,
He's not taking snaps
who no
from
one.
Nick Bolton.
Well, last
Nick
year,
Bolton better be hurt.
Last year, wow, okay, breaking news, everybody. Todd Lebo wants Nick Bolton to get hurt. I'm gonna write
he
that
said
down.
if Drew is
138.
playing in front of him. He
better
didn't
be
say
hurt.
that.
But you know what would help Nick Bolton physically a little bit? Hey, bud, you don't have to play 100% of the snaps right
is
now.
true.
And Tranquill can step in some sub packages. Nick Bolton should not be on the field and dime. So
breaking news. Josh Briscoe says bench Nick Bolton.
Wow.
That in dime packages, I do. You can quote me, or I'd rather you just tweet Seth
Josh
Kaiser
said
about it because he's way more sensitive about it than I am.
So Josh says that Drew Tranquill should play ahead of Nick Bolton.
That's what he
That's
said.
what Josh said. That's weird.
Well, Drew Tranquill and Willie Gay should play in front of Nick Bolton in sub packages, but that I know where to set my hopes at least, which is nice and low.
Wow, you really think Neiman is better than Bolton?
Yeah, and I always have.
Wow.
I always thought that was a downgrade.
Odd that you go Sorensen over Cook, but whatever. I mean, to each their own.
I have split this up in a way that I wanted to be able to have the winner of both the Chiefs mini game here and everything else, but that means I don't know what the current score actually is.
It's
I
9.
think I'm up by one.
Yeah, it's 9 to 8 to 7. Drake has 7. I have 8. Lebo has 9.
And Lebo has 9.
He has 9. He was
Doesn't
9 for
seem
9.
right.
He's 9 for 9, and he missed the last 2.
Okay, all right. It's a cold stretch for Lebo.
No,
but
we all got.
We all got the couple of them
It was
right. Yeah,
right.
but he said it wrong. But whatever.
Okay.
He's stupid.
He's dumb.
I just needed
hate
someone
him.
to have the score right. But we're all going to get to tiebreaker anyway.
Probably.
I hate me too, by the way.
I hate him.
By the way, real quick, Joel Sherman says the Royals have entertained Officer Salvador Perez, not completely dead, but very unlikely. He has moved Marlins head interest. So did non-contending White Sox, owing to relationship with manager Pedro Grifol and team control through 2025 with the 2026 club option.
That would have hurt, right?
What'd you say?
The relationship with him had the White Sox interested. That would have actually hurt. I
Aren't
think
they
a little
selling?
bit. The Marlins would be fine.
The White Sox are selling, aren't they?
I said non-contending. I
Non-contending.
read
Yeah.
the tweet post.
They're
What do you
not
call it? I don't know what
trading
you call it.
Salvador Perez.
Marlins had interest, which, again, Miami. So did non-contending White Sox. So.
Yeah, last night, Seren asked JJ on the Zoom about Salvador, and he said that no one, he didn't say they wouldn't trade him, but there wasn't a lot of action on it. But you know what? That's last night.
It was last
Things get
night,
crazy, man.
Again, Jonah Heim. I know it didn't say Rangers, but,
I'm calling an audible on my fact or fiction. I'm going to save my other one for next week because I want to get you guys a new one right now.
Let's do it.
Fact or fiction. Salvador Perez ever suits up in a uniform that is not the Kansas City Royals, or if you want to see a little rehab, a little
For
Omaha,
Major League
whatever.
Baseball.
But he will never suit up for a Major League Baseball team other than the Kansas City Royals. He will retire a Royal.
Is this Drake first? Is our second last question?
I can't. This is the last question in regulation.
Yeah, this is the last question, so I guess I'm going first. I will say that is...
Oh, how do you spell that?
That is faction. Fiction.
He'll never play for
We'll never play for another organization.
Well, I'll say fact so we can really tie.
I'll say fact.
I think it's fiction.
There you go. See, now
All
we're
right,
really
see,
tied.
yeah.
See how I do this? 2 weeks in a row I've done this for you.
And man, Lebo, you had the advantage out of the
Commandingly.
gate. You won the non-overreaction section.
He was 9 for 9.
And then Jason went 5 for 6 in the overreaction section, and then added one more on there with
Sounds
the
about right for
Salvi
him.
one. So I'm looking at my
Overreaction.
notes, and looks like you are actually all
Wait,
tied at 9. Okay, well that was easy.
9 to 7.
Here's your tiebreaker, fellas. The Royals' motto for this season is "Welcome to the City."
If that's what you say.
Well, I don't feel it is. Their motto all year has been "Welcome to the City." It's on the branding and the TV broadcast and all that. I figured they would have saved that for the stadium, but whatever.
Okay.
All year long, raised Royal, forever Royal, et cetera, et cetera. Welcome to the
love
city.
These guys, remember that one?
Welcome. Oh boy, I forgot about that. That yikes.
Remember the Chiefs from the 50, anything's possible.
Anything
From the
possible.
50, anything's possible. Like their motto was, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
From the 50.
It's
who
true
knows?
with this outfit.
If
That
we
outfit
get
back then.
if
nah,
we get
not
to
from
the 50, who knows what could happen?
This year's motto is "Welcome to the City," and you
Okay.
can't say "Welcome to the Bleepy." It's the rhymey one. It's right there. You can't have it. We're on
Okay.
FCC violation territory.
Okay.
I don't feel very welcome. I want a new motto for the rest of this season for the Kansas City Royals. You three can pitch me on your new slogans for the rest of the year. We'll adopt one of them. I'll send them over to the Royals and suggest it.
Yes, Blue Wings Rising. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Tiebreaker there, and any other news that may have happened with the trade deadline or others around sports. Who knows? Maybe Carly Lloyd has said something else about the national team. I don't know. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Justin Verlander is now an Astro, so he's going to see what it's like to play for the Houston Astros now from the New York Mets, and there are already pictures out there online of what it would look like for Justin Verlander in an Astros uniform. So
winning
great
a World
Photoshop.
Series even. I don't know how they figured that out.
This is so weird. But boy, let's see what the Astros gave the Mets in that deal.
Here's the deal, man. I feel sorry for the Mets that they're the second-rate citizen in New York and all that.
Do you?
And they've got a crazy billionaire owner who will spend anything for anything. But
bad
I think
for
it's freaking hilarious. Freaking hilarious that he spent all this money on these old pitchers, and now they're trading him away.
A lot of money, too.
It's just insane. You want to talk about, like, everyone thinks that running backs are, colluded against. They need to go back and collude against themselves in baseball to stop paying 40-year-old men $40 million a year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the NBA did by not having high school kids be eligible for the draft because they couldn't stop themselves from drafting the high school kids.
They couldn't stop it.
So
You have
they
to do
just
something.
said, all right, well, we're just going to make sure that we can't. They have to be a year removed because we can't stop drafting them.
If he throws for 140 innings next year, he gets to opt in for $35 million himself. So just in 2025.
Not even
The Mets paid Scherzer $2.5 million per start, by the way, prorating that all out.
But isn't Scherzer this year making $15 million from 3 different teams?
Probably, that's so funny.
The Nationals, the Mets, and the Rangers are all paying him
going
at
to
least
have-
$15 million this year.
This Bobby Bonilla Day thing is hilarious and everything, but these guys now, a lot of them have these deals, and you'll laugh at Bobby Bonilla's money eventually.
Yeah.
On what you'll look, 30 years from now, Justin Verlander's making $7 million from someone this year. Oh, okay. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Mets.
$15 million from the Nationals, the Mets, and the Rangers this year is what he's saying. A piece, not total.
Yeah, no. Well, no. He's not impoverished.
Isn't Ken Griffey still like the 3rd highest paid Red or
Yeah,
something?
he is.
It's awesome.
I think it's the 4th, but yeah.
3rd or 4th?
Yeah.
Somebody else jumped him?
Did Votto pass him up or something over the years?
I think Votto had him.
Votto had him at one point. But yeah, Griffey's still like the 3rd or 4th highest paid Red.
You remember his Reds years? They were great.
I do.
I do.
Yeah, that's when you started watching
very
baseball.
formative time for me. Ken Griffey Jr., the Red, is sort of what I have.
You don't remember his Mariners days.
I remember some of them, but not. It was all post-uniform change for sure.
Do you remember the Jay Buhner, Edgar Martinez, Griffey Mariners days?
No, he doesn't remember
You do
those.
not. You
Not
remember
really.
Ichiro.
I do.
About Griffey's White Sox days.
Wow. Day.
That's right. All right, so we've got these.
Here's what you got. We got the tide. Everybody tied in Fact or Fiction.
Oh, okay.
A rare occasion. So I had to whip up a question for you guys to say that the Royals' motto this year is "Welcome to the City." And I don't feel very welcome, so I want you guys to tell me what the motto should be for the rest of this Royals season.
Well, I got a few. I'll save my one that's my real one for later. But I'll.
Oh,
give
you want
one
to
now.
warm us up
I'll
first?
give you a warm up.
Okay.
Royals baseball. We're your opponent today.
I like that one.
Here we are. You have to play somebody, don't you?
We're your opponent today. Okay, that's not not the official nominee
That's not
though.
the real one. Do you have 2, Drake, or just one?
Just one.
All right,
Okay.
I'll give you.
I've got a few.
Okay, why don't you guys play ping pong here then?
Okay. Royals baseball, park and slide.
I like that.
Not park and ride. That's, I needed to explain that joke for some reason.
Royals baseball. See you in Clay County. Now my next one's my real one.
Okay.
So I'll win on that.
Royals baseball, find the diamond.
Ooh.
Because the park and also
Play
players.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been rough.
Yeah.
Should be plenty of rough to look
Explain
through.
that one too.
Diamond.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain all of them.
They're a lab-grown diamond. Is that what
Nothing
they
wrong
are?
with that.
Yeah,
I wish they could
'cause-
grow a diamond in the lab.
Yeah.
For the Royals.
Yeah.
I got my real one next, but I'm
Okay.
gonna go last. 'cause
Jason, you
Drake's
want to
actually
keep spitting
last.
the not your final answers?
No, I think my next one might be my final answer,
Okay.
or that one might have been my final answer.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Very good. Drake?
55 or bust.
I like that. I can't win.
Is that-
55.
Is that win total or average age of people in the stands or
Hey, I'm 53
Whichever one you
years
want.
old.
nothing wrong with being
Okay.
55?
It was a great attendance weekend for the Royals out there Friday, Saturday,
55,
Sunday.
20,000 people.
You get 20,000 people a night, they win. That's what it is.
That's what
They're
happens.
missing
Doesn't
fans.
take much.
Bobby Witt only hits walk-off grand slams in front of a stadium full of Hawaiian shirt-wearing people.
There were a lot of Twins fans out there. They were very
Yeah,
vocal.
don't
What?
bring that up.
What
Don't
are you
bring that
talking
up.
about? Nobody was getting circled.
out there in commercial breaks. There was no circling there.
So your final answer now?
Yep, I'll say Royals baseball happens. So it's baseball happens, but it's Royals baseball happens.
I think that was your best of those of that group.
I got. We promise not to go into extra innings, Beyonce, because that's the last game of the year, and it starts at 2, and they can't change it, and they got to get out of the way for Beyonce.
That's the team slogan the rest of the way.
We'll get out of your way, Beyonce.
Yes. My best nominee is ever eaten Pasquatch meat.
Oh,
which I think you make some hot dogs. Pasquatch is dead. Clearly, I haven't seen him in a very long time. I think my favorite of those finalists. I think I've added some parentheses to really land it in the graphic design element, but Royals baseball happens.
Yes,
is the right energy for me. So Jason,
yes,
is the victor of this edition of Fact or Fiction, which included both a mini game of Camp Over reactions, and also a full-on writing class. So good work in the writers' room, everybody.
Todd, Barlow, Singer, Hernandez, Taylor Clark, Yarborough.
Feels like
how many are gone? How many get traded?
Well, we said 2 for fact. I think
at least 2.
You think at least 2?
I don't think it'll be 3. Barlow for sure is the one that should go.
They've
but
got
I think Ryan Yarbrough might bring something.
They've got to trade him.
And I don't mind them keeping Carlos Hernandez.
I don't mind that either.
I mean, Royals baseball. Someone's got to play.
Hey, that's pretty good.
There it is. Royals baseball. There's players.
And I think he is still someone who.
These are professionals. Royals baseball. These are professionals.
It's the majors.
They're getting paid.
Come watch a major league team.
Yes. You decide which one.
2. I'm kidding.
You decide which one.
I'm going out to the clubhouse here in about an hour. So
oh, they're going to love that. Hey, Todd, you got any more slogans for us this year?
They're not. Look,
Briscoe's fault.
Mine wasn't disrespectful. Mine was about the Pasquatch.
Baseball happens.
Baseball happens, man.
Baseball happens 81 dates a year.
But I would like to see at least 2 of those go. I mean, listen. They said that they're going to be active, and so far they've done 3 things, and that's not including the Chapman deal already. So they've made moves, okay, and maybe not everyone likes all the moves, but it looks like they're trying to make moves. I expect more things to happen in the next couple hours, but I think Yarbrough could bring something. Barlow, last year might have brought something more because it hasn't been as good. If someone wants Taylor Clark, let's go. I mean, I didn't see the Jose Cuas thing coming.
Oh.
I didn't either. I didn't see them getting anything for him. By the way, I didn't think there was a chance.
People don't think that's so bad.
No, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that deal. I mean, I was ready to see Jose. I wasn't excited when Jose Cuas came in the game, so I was perfectly fine if they traded him. What'd you get for him? Fungo bat? Oh wait, this guy actually has some power.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's see what happens. If you can,
it's not 29.
Can you fix the swing and miss? Then hey,
they haven't shown the ability to do that here.
I'm just saying, maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. Take a chance because Jose Cuas isn't getting much swing and miss. So
the Mets are in town, so that'll be pretty wild out there today because they're apparently stocking players up at the hotel. Grab an Uber. You're in tonight, son.
I don't think there's any reason for Ryan Yarbrough to be on the team past 5 o'clock today. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Again, since he returned from the injury in those 6 starts, he's got a 2 ERA, 15 strikeouts and 2 walks. He's pitching really well, and he's only making $1 million the rest of the way.
He has earned a promotion.
How do you not trade him? Yes, that's right.
That's you. That's not me saying that.
I mean, that's just look. The Royals. Yeah. You can only demote to one other team in baseball, and they don't want to play where they're currently playing. So that's just the numbers.
Well, neither the Royals.
Well, you know what? Fair enough, I guess. Have the A's considered Clay County?
2 teams.
Thank you, Todd.
All right.
We'll take a time out. Program next.